Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, JMails24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Kenna Bear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, good morning. Let me also say good morning, take the opportunity. Asadullah, I mean, we need to talk more, you and I. But you're welcome, man.
What's that? I miss. What did he just say?
Nah, it's just a baller. Fresh
Oh,
meat.
somebody you're inviting somebody to join.
Now there is someone here on the panel, a baller. We had some
Oh, I see.
a little chat, but not much, not much.
I understand. Well, they'll talk when they're ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How are you? Thanks.
Cough, just as you say. Actually, I'm doing quite well compared to just 3.5 weeks ago. I was really sick, but no, I'm doing well, and lots of things to catch up with. But thanks for asking.
Is that why you were away? I thought it was the move.
Well, it was a day before. No. The move's been done. I was away during the same time Nathan didn't have a show, really, because it was, I think, a day and a half before Christmas Eve. I got the bug, and then I was out for 2.5 weeks. In fact, I came back the second day he started the show. I missed the first day. Live, that is.
All right. So what were you doing most of the time? Just lying down or something?
But everyone was good. That's all I could do. I had zero energy and stay hydrated, and made a bunch of homemade chicken soup and nursed myself back.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a drainer in the sense of zero energy to do anything. Just sleeping was the best thing.
I had something like that one time a while back, but I believe it was food poisoning because some meat wasn't cooked properly.
Oh boy.
And I also threw it up in the morning. I noticed it wasn't digested whatsoever. And that was one instance where I had no energy.
That's it then.
Yeah, I had no energy. I was for 2-3 days, all I did was sleep, hydrate myself. I didn't even eat, and feed the cat, clean the litter, and that's about it. The rest, I was just
Did the cat eat? Did the cat eat what you threw out?
No.
Yeah. Hello?
Hello, Neil.
Mic check.
And, yeah.
But after those 2-3
Yeah, food
days,
poisoning will do that. Yeah, you're here.
After 2-3 days, I was good as new. It was like nothing happened. I just sweated it all out and just slept it
That
all out.
sounds a lot like. That sounds a lot like food poisoning.
Okay.
I've had that, I think, twice in my life, and it was very similar to what you just described. Mine was a gut inflammation, something in my gut. It wasn't my lungs. I wasn't having lung issues or anything. It just, I haven't been sick in 5 years. This is the first time in 5 years. So it's like really took me.
Yeah, I'm having something in my gut too. Won't even get into details.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Did you stop and get a donut or what?
I don't know what I stopped and got, but it ain't stopping yet. Well, who we gonna tear apart today?
Gotcha. Well, I posted a video of Sabina Hoffen. I can't say her last name. Let me see. Let's see if I can read it. Sabina Hassengelder. Her title of her video is Flat Earth Science Wrong, but Not Stupid.
Yeah, we had her already. Oh, can we did something on her?
Not the, yeah. No, we've talked about her in the past, and this video has been done probably by QE, more than likely, but it's time for Nathan to look at it.
Yeah.
As many people in science communication,
He just wants
am
to be
fascinated with flat
He doesn't
earthers.
want.
Here you have a group of
Okay.
people steadfastly rejecting evidence that's right in their face. Today I want to tell you why I nevertheless think flat earthers are neither stupid nor anti-scientific, most of them anyway. More importantly, I also want to explain why you should not be embarrassed if you can't remember how we know that the Earth is round.
That was the best line of them all right there at the end.
What I'm supposed to remember? Because nobody ever told me.
But first I have to tell you what flat earthers actually believe and how they got there. The most popular flat earth model is that of a disk where the North Pole is in the middle and the South Pole is an ice wall on the edge of the disk.
No, are you going to attack that?
You got to play that other part again.
You have this obsession with
What?
replaying things.
No, that was classic, though, Nathan.
No, because you now hang on, Nathan. It's not an obsession. It's that you pause when you have a point to make, when something stands out, and then you ask us, what do we think? And that's normally and generally the flow of the show. But if I hear something, I say pause, or, oh, can you play that again? It's because I'm picking up something and I'm trying to get that out. But if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it.
Sure. But she's just thrown up a straw man reification fallacy that she's ascribed to all flat earthers, which is to say this azimuthal equidistant projection with the North Pole at the centre and the South Pole as an ice wall on the outside edge isn't something I would ever claim is the world. It's got its useful purpose, but it's not representative of the world I live on, and I have no accurate map to present. But this straw man reification has come from azimuthal equidistant projection, that is, the one on screen, has come from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris to begin with, to lay out the latitude lines. So this straw man burning process that she's going through by way of a false dichotomy that she's about to set up is being done with two flat Earth models, because the globe has also done the same thing, come from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris to give them their equator. The fact that they project it onto a sphere makes no odds when you're measuring angles to give you circles on a flat plane. So she's about to hold up a false dichotomy with two straw men, both of which are derived from angles measured from a flat plane.
Right, but before you go there, what did she end it before she started that?
What?
If you forgot.
That's what I want you to play again.
It's not that easy.
Just start. Just go with it. It's the pre-show. Just start the video again, and I'll say stop.
Start the video again. It's a 15-minute video. You want to start it again, okay?
Nor anti-scientific. most of them anyway.
Yeah, but
More importantly, I also want to explain why you should not be embarrassed if you can't remember how we know that the Earth is round.
Right there.
Stop. For all our lives, they've been pushing it. It's on everything. It's talked about. It's used to belittle anybody who thinks different. And then she says, and I want to talk to you about how you shouldn't feel embarrassed if you forgot why the Earth is round. Forgot? I see it every day and everything. What do you mean forgot? You got no proof for it.
But where's the proof going to come? We were never shown any proof.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out because most globers are embarrassed because they forgot why it's round.
Let me add something. Let me add something quick. That also kind of just it's kind of like damage control that really people aren't taught this, right? Why else would you have to say something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
What she means by that,
That's the
reading between
point.
the lines, is if you've attempted to tell a flat earther that they're an idiot, and they've gone, well, actually, I've got X, Y, and Z example of how Earth is flat and demonstrated not curved. Well, what have you got to say for yourself? And your average normie goes, I don't know. She's appealing to that guy, I think, or girl.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's damage control, as Righteous says.
The disk. But not all flat
Hey, may I
earthers sign
interject
up
with
to
a quick
this.
request if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
Give me just about 30 seconds, if you would. I'm heading into the office. I just wanted to see if somebody could share the video where you, Nathan, are talking about the supposed radio detection of how far Mercury is away from Earth. Is that something somebody could maybe find for me and just put in the text chat? I would appreciate it. Thank you all and have a good day.
What do you specifically want? The Jodrell Bank measurement that's Bob from NASA came along to and said, yeah, there's the signal return. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. The one where you're dispelling the return.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know which video that would be in, but I'll just disseminate it now, which is to say that if you're going to send up a signal and then look for a return, and Anthony Riley's original approach to this was to say, well, just because Bob from NASA comes along and says he sees a return signal doesn't mean there is one. Well, that's true, but what they're looking for is a return signal that's based on the heliocentric R value for a sphere Earth transposed onto Venus for the timings to be there at the time that Bob says, oh, well, of course that's where the signal is. You guys can't see it, but I can. Well, where's he looking? Well, where isn't as relevant as when. The time that the return signal has to come is dependent on Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion, and Venus having the same R value as Earth to give them the timings to know when to look. Yeah? So regardless of whether or not he gets it back, they're presupposing when they should be looking in terms of the timing, because they've got all of the timings they should be looking from an assumption of Earth having a spherical radius value, Venus having the same spherical radius value as Earth, and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion transposed onto all of it to derive the overall timings based on the distance, based on the speed of light. There you go.
Absolutely. And the reason I was asking for the videos, I really liked how you had described in there where they first one of the researchers or operators, whatever you want to call them, was like, well, I'm not sure that that's it. And then the director's kind of like, that was it. And then they're like,
type in,
yeah, okay, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, Jodrell Bank. So yeah, if you type in Jodrell Bank observation, I don't know what you type in to get to this directly, but Anthony was just reading that off the official narrative for this story. You know, there's the guys at Jodrell Bank going, yeah, we got nothing. So they send a guy from NASA, and the NASA guy, this is where I come in, looks within the timings that are based on R that we've debunked, and the sky being a vacuum, and the distances based on Venus having the same R value, and Christian Huygens assuming such. Based on all of that, he looks at the time that there should be a return signal according to the heliocentric model and goes, yeah, there is, there it is, look, right on time. Yeah, Jodrell Bank. I'll have to ask Anthony where he got that. So you can just read it for yourself. I'll just ask Anthony and I'll see if I can get that from him when I next speak to him, which is fairly frequently.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Have a nice day. Thank you.
My pleasure. I think that wasn't the globe believer you were talking about then.
After Neil says what he wants to say, Nathan, after Neil says something, I want to ask you something.
Go ahead, Neil.
No, I was just saying, did they all cheer when he said, there's the signal?
Well, no, because they're saying that they had to be convinced. The guy from NASA convinced them that there was a signal there where they hadn't seen one prior. But the NASA guy spent a long time convincing them that it was there. That's what's in the official narrative.
Yeah. Did you say that his name is George Robank? Can you make it? You spoke so fast, no one could. At least I couldn't figure out what the spelling would be.
I don't reference it because I don't know where to get it. So all I talk about is the bits that I know about, which is the assumption by Christian Huygens, Venus, Kepler's third law. I attack all of those. Anthony, on the other hand, knows the narrative and has got references and goes to that to point out the absurdity of when they look in the timings they're expecting from the heliocentric model, them not seeing anything. Man from NASA must be sent. Bob from NASA comes along and says, yeah. You can. There it is. I don't know who that is. Bob is the only name I can remember. I don't know the surname either.
Yeah, I was on that show. I remember the show, and you pretty much summarized it exactly the way it went. And it'd be good that Anthony could get that to you and you could post it.
Indeed, yeah. I've just spilled coffee everywhere, so give me a minute.
Well,
see, I knew it wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Coffee on the computer.
This Bob guy. No, not on the computer. He knows better. The NASA guy kept saying, yeah, there it is. And those guys couldn't hear this, as I recall Anthony reading from whatever source he had. Oh, okay. Well, if you say it's there, then it's there. It's one of those.
Hey, 10th man.
You're supposed to be talking. Yeah, thank you.
10th man.
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't care what you say. I'm listening, and there's a major delay coming from everybody's microphone, however it works. It's not deliberate, I'm telling you.
I'm going to go start my internet. No, I'm going to go start my internet again, just because sometimes if I don't unplug and plug it, I experience that major delay. So I'll be back.
Yeah, I thought there was some sort of delay between you guys.
Major delay. I was listening, not just me, everybody that comes on. I sat back and just listened for about a half hour, and it's like people are not hearing.
Yeah, it's kind of the impression I got.
I'm going to try and drop and rejoin too.
Right, so I'm the only one filling the dead air at the moment. Oh, hey, Refracted, welcome back. Were you gone for a bit?
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say, most of the time, though, people are just waiting on their turn to talk. So some people just jump the gun.
No, it's not that, John.
You know?
It's not that anymore, I'm telling you.
Some people.
For the last 2 weeks.
Some people don't even wait.
I knew he was finished. Welcome back, John. I hope everything's going good.
Thank you now.
Now you see, Nathan,
What?
Look how long that took him to respond.
What are you talking about? Anyway, did I not hear there was a...
Yeah, I'm making coffee too now.
Yeah, everyone's just waking up over at your side of the pond, so no long lectures and massive reunion welcome backs. But it is good to have you. Absolutely. Did you say there was somebody that wanted to ask some globe-related questions from the Discord server? Did I overhear that as I was setting up?
No, I was saying there's a Glover in the panel. It's an opportunity for him to present any claims. I'm sure he's here for a reason. He's on the voice chat.
What's his name or her name?
Asadullah.
What a wonderful name. Asadullah. I love that. It flows off the tongue. It's like butter. Mm. Is that your actual name, Asadullah?
Yo, what's up? Yeah, that's my name.
Beautiful name. I love it.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, good to have you.
Enjoying the show. Thank you.
Did he have questions about the weirdest flat Earth religion in the world?
Maybe make it a bit more open-ended. Did you have some specific questions, Asadullah? Because if so, we might as well get those out of the way.
Not now.
No, fair enough. In that case, enjoy the dulcet tones of Sabine Hosselenfenn. Yeah.
Wait, is the new guy a baller or a flat earther?
Baller.
Nobody's going to ask him for evidence?
He hasn't made any claims. At some point, Neil, there'll have been a point in your
Whoa.
career.
Hold
Oh,
on,
my
hold
bad.
on. He believes the earth is a sphere. So nobody's going to say, do you have any proof? Like we do with everybody, whether his name flows off the tongue easily or not. We say, you have any proof of that? I'm wondering why this guy's getting a pass.
Because he hasn't
Maybe
made any
because he's
claims
new
yet.
or it's Monday morning.
Because he hasn't said
He claims
anything.
the earth is a
Because he's not
sphere.
said anything yet. I was about to
Down
say...
as a glober.
I was about to say, there will have been a point, Neil, where you were a glober, but then there was an epiphany.
I'm here to learn, man.
Exactly, there you go. He's not here to justify any claims he hasn't made yet. Maybe he will at some point.
Hello, sound check, please.
Sounding good.
Great.
Okay, so we'll do a bit more Sabine in the live show then, yeah?
Yeah, it's worth it.
Okay. Did you say QE? Again, I was listening while I was setting up. Did you say QE is already covered?
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, that's what Neil said. I remember her being covered before. I remember this being discussed before, but not the way of the new format of reviewing the whole video by you.
Hey everyone.
Hey, Brian.
I did a video on her before in the past. She'd done 2 flat earth videos. I did a video on her first one as a good few years ago.
Can we see it?
Was it the same one, Brian? The one that we have today?
Is the one you have today flat earth science? Wrong, not stupid?
Yes.
Yep.
No, that was the one before that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. What do you reckon, eh? She a good-looking fella?
Well, they're all this intellectual type, and they want to be successful on YouTube. Her personality is more of an engineer and not a YouTube character to me. It's there's people who've got personalities that match the YouTube template or format, but she's of the cerebral kind, so an engineer would like her.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the way people come across in their presentations are a bit stiff or too wordy or.
I'm a bit lost. Are we setting her up? Are we putting her on a dating site? What are we doing?
No. You were commenting on her, and we've seen the contrast last week, Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, I won't debate anybody because I have the objective truth and they might have more charisma. And then the next video, all he does is do charisma. Now, this lady, there is no charisma, period.
I don't know, you know. There's something beautiful about a monotone voice.
Oh, but you be quiet. I'm just giving you my opinion. That's all. I'm not judging her. I'm just saying it's just different ways of doing it. An engineer would love this.
I am. Get some inflection in your voice.
Look, people would come in for sales training and they were this way. And I'd say, you want to be in sales? Yes, I do. I go, do you know what people skills are? Well, that's what I'm here to learn. And it's like, it's not going to work. It's just,
I like it. You got straight to the nub, because whenever you mention sales, obviously there's a part of my brain that immediately just illuminates. And the first thing you say when you're talking about training salespeople, do you have not knowledge of features, advantages, and benefits, not knowledge of unique selling points, not knowledge of pricing structures. Do you have people skills? What do people buy? Well, they buy products. No. They buy from people, right? Doesn't matter what the product is. When you walk in and they like you, they put your arm around. Oh, you're going to stay for a beer? Yeah, they're going to be customers of yours. They're going to buy stuff from you eventually. Yeah?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're selling.
That's it. No, that's why the smooth talking salesman who doesn't have a heart to do the right thing makes a lot of sales, because they know that's what, he made me feel good. He was confident and he was funny, wasn't he? And then you find out a week later, he charged you double.
Do you remember me telling you about, how long are we in? Is this going to get me demonetized?
There's 6 minutes till start time.
Okay, so well into the pre-show for me to not get demonetized for a rude story. So speaking of sales, do you remember me telling you about being into Red Square and the place being shut down for some dignitary coming, and there being a protest outside and people being taken away to be shot and all that sort of stuff? Well, during that visit, again, something slightly bizarre. They had these Russian pop stars, like a girl band, and they were playing. But playing to nobody, because the whole place was empty. But they're playing like the full concert. So for me, it reminded me of like a dress rehearsal when I was doing performing arts for the musos. They're putting all their energy in, but there's no one there. So they're trying to do it as much as possible like it's a full, stage performance. But this was a full stage performance, but for no one, because presumably at some point the dignitary was going to come round and see them and see the Pride of Russia, this girl band doing their thing. So he gets to see him. So obviously they've got to be playing their little souls out while they're waiting for the guy to come. So they're doing their full set, which I got to poke my head around and see a little bit of. Anyway, I'm there, and my purpose in being there is to sell very, very, very expensive studio-based equipment that could potentially, be hundreds of thousands of pounds in terms of the order that I'm trying to land. Anyway, we come out of this concert and we're coming out of Red Square, and just outside where this band has obviously got their stage entrance to whatever part of Red Square they're performing in, there's their limo. And on the limo is all of these girls, let's say there's 5 of them, plastered on these big decals on the side of the limo, right? Now, up until this point, I've been very straight-laced. I've got my suit on. I'm looking prim and proper, and I'm there to talk business and all the rest of it. Yes, we're getting the tour out of the way because I've not long arrived. But as far as they're concerned, I'm the very straight-laced British guy. That's the impression they're giving me of me, because that's how I look, right? And I don't know them. But when we walk out, I see this car, and I beckon over one of the guys, the main rep, or the main distributor, I should say. And I beckon him over, and while I'm standing with my back to this car, I just reach down and start scratching the crotch of one of the stickers on this car. And as he gets closer, I just offered my hand under his nose. And all the guys around him just pissed themselves with laughter, because it's obviously it wasn't what they were expecting from this guy in a very sharp suit to be scratching and sniffing with some pop stars we've just been looking at. So this got a very, very positive reaction from all these Russian guys who up until that point were quite straight-laced. And, you know, here's your tour of our very posh Red Square, and it's all very nice here in Russia, and all the rest of it, right? And at that point, that was when we started to go out and get drunk, you know, went out for a meal and had a laugh. But up until that point, it was very much, oh, this guy's here to sell us things. Better give him the tour and show how wonderful we are, because he's from a posh company in Britain, so we'll show him how wonderful we are, and then tell him to sling his hook and not buy anything. But in that case, that wasn't the case. You know, they definitely did buy things. But moreover, because of me becoming one of them and showing that, you know, this is just a bit of a laugh, we can have a bit of fun, in spite of my terrible Russian and their, you know, broken English. But anyway, that was just an example of the product in that scenario wasn't relevant, and the fact that they bought at the end wasn't, again, anything to do with necessarily the product I was selling. It was the fact that by the time I left their company, they liked me. So they wanted to do business with me. And like I say, that had sod all to do with the product. It could have been anything. It could have been photocopier. It doesn't matter, right? I say photocopier because I know that was what you did, right? And I'm sure the same is said for you. There would be instances where you just got the customer to relate to you on a level that you try and do it with every customer. You try and figure out what level you need to be appealing to them. Yeah? And I found out while we were at the bar that one of my predecessors, one of the other reps, had it really is gross, had put his balls into a cup of drink whilst attending one of the meetings. And again, that for some reason was absolutely hilarious to these Russian guys. And that was the reason that it was two before me, predecessor, had managed to get them to buy stuff from him, just because he'd made them laugh by doing something absolutely repugnant. But, you know, I kind of gauged them right, is what I'm trying to say. Although that sounds filthy. You just gauge the people that you're with, and hopefully if you can get them to laugh, they'll like you.
Wow. I could say a lot. I just will abstain. But now one of your proudest moments, but your point is that you got to get people to like and trust you.
My point is that other people had failed to get this particular distributor to buy their products. And they'd done all the things. They'd gone out, they'd done the rep tour, they'd gone around Russia with them, and they didn't get them to buy. Well, it didn't, and I didn't have the best product in many regards, right? But it didn't matter. What mattered was...
No. You had the best personality, though.
No, no. Look, I've seen people, I've gone to places where I'm gauging how I'm being sold something. And I'm talking to my wife in advance. I go, this is what's going to happen if he's a pro. This is what's going to happen if he's a novice. And sure enough, I nail it every time just because of the experience. And so the point is, you could have the best product. You could have the best product by $150,000 price tag. It doesn't matter. You got the best product, but the salesman is stiff. He's not likable. He's not trustable. It ain't going to be sold.
Showtime.
I have a relative in the UK, and he was worth ridiculous money back in the 80s. In my mind, like, he's well retired now, but he was him and another relative, which is his brother. The two of them did very well independently, but they were very likable. If you met him.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, Neil, Adam, Righteous Force, 10th, Brian's Logic, Chocolate Saying, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon.
You.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
If there was, they need help and reminders because they're embarrassed because they can't remember why it's there or is it there.
Okay, we're going to get to Sabine Hossenfelder. Hossenfelder. We'll get to her later, but we'll do a bit of reaction to her. So this is actually something that a fair few other people have covered, as I've just found out. But it doesn't matter. We've never covered it, so we will. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, I can't wait for Sabine to tell us how the Earth is obviously a globe because, glasses exist.
What?
Or calculators?
Negative.
Exist.
The reference frames have been ruined.
Any evidence that you can have?
There never were any reference frames.
Oh, for axial rotation of the Earth-based variety.
That's a claim that should have evidence to follow, meaning the Earth is spinning. Great. Everything attached to the Earth spin with the Earth? Yeah, I just said the Earth is spinning. So everything attached that's on the Earth will spin with the Earth. Okay, what if I get off the Earth? The Earth is spinning. Yes, so under me now since I'm off the Earth, right? So if I hover in the helicopter or if I'm floating in a hot air balloon, the Earth should be spinning underneath me, right? Well, everything except that.
You and your reference frames have been ruined. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure, like we're all breathing, without the necessary antecedent of a container for the gas to press upon?
Oh, Mr. Conspiracy Cats knows better. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
AI says without the container, there can be no pressure.
That guy from Big Think, last show we did on Friday, said that if you had two different pressures, then the high pressure is going to be wanting to go into the low pressure.
Yes, Eric Valinder said if you were in two rooms and one room had more pressure than the other and you open the door, it's going to equalize.
Well, hold on. Fireman Dan, was it the same guy that told Tommy that he was going to get back to that question and answer it, and he never did?
No, that's Conspiracy Cats. He said, is that Simon Dan? No, that's Conspiracy Cats.
Well, where's his answer?
Without the container, there can be no pressure.
Space-time bending can create the container, even though it's not a physical container.
Yeah, gas requires a physical container, though, to press upon physically. The physical description of it physically pressing on a physical container to have physical gas pressure like we experience. So bending fourth-dimensional space-time won't give you that.
Well, unless the space-time actually bends the very volume available for the gas to expand in.
Can you demonstrate this?
Volume? How do you have a volume without a container?
Look up.
No, demonstrate, not observe.
It's already been. Stop. I was going to let that slide till Chocolate demolished it just after, but I'm going to let Chocolate go in advance of what you've asked, rather than any demonstration of what the volume of the gas being bent by a geodesic in a fourth-dimensional space-time to create containment, as asserted by Arwin, countered by Chocolate by saying, whoa, what volume? Volume of what? What's it bending? The volume of the gas? No. How do you calculate volume? Oh, well, that would be the area of space within the containment, would it not, Arwin?
Yes, and that is exactly the thing that the space-time well, the well of gravity, is creating for the gas to stay within it.
Is it the well within other space?
No, it's subspace. It's pseudo-Riemannian force space. So the space itself is bent through the bending of space-time in order for a volume to be effectively fixed for gas pressure expansion.
Sure. So for we're within this fourth dimensional space-time being bent into a gravity well to create gas pressure without a containment, you're saying the volume is the area of the well, but that well, I ask, has got space around it also. Correct?
Correct.
Well, that would be volume, wouldn't it, Arwin?
Yeah, but it's not. It's effectively isolated.
Is it effectively
gravity
isolated?
well
No.
effectively bends the space-time like into a container. That's how you can see it.
That's where chocolate, not chocolate, 10th can take over. You got a demonstration of that then?
Yes.
No, you don't.
It's over there. I'm pointing at it right now.
Okay, without begging the question of your sky vacuum and geodesics of fourth dimensional space-time bending to create a well, have you got any evidence beyond that begging the question fallacy?
Well, there have been sightings of black holes, right? And if it's the gravity well strong enough to actually bend light, well, it's sure going to be strong enough to contain actual matter, right?
Have you done that because
doesn't even fall in that category.
Have you done that because
it can even be bent.
Is that because the description that you will ascribe to a non-phenomena photographed in the sky to a heliocentric orbital mechanical based value on our rotating Venus at the same value as our in an orbital motion to derive the scales with Kepler's third law to give you a speed of light, for that speed of light to be bending in your description of a mere photograph of a light in the sky? Not that we could acquire the same thing, it's a time lapse. But to say that that photograph of a donut shaped with light around it is actually the fourth dimensional space-time assumption being bent to create that phenomena. Correct?
Well, that's a bit of a mouthful, but yeah, that sounds pretty much correct.
But I know it's pretty much correct. That's why I thought you went to it, because it's so much for me to have to summarize and pull apart. And if I don't fully summarize it, you'll have me on one of the things I miss out.
Damn it. You're getting too good at countering my Baldwin arguments. Damn it.
Only because I know the entirety of it to summarize it. I just need a yes, though. We're going to be bent. I don't want to summarize it again. The bent geodesic creating a well within the volume of the entirety of space won't qualify as a volume, because the volume is merely the area of volume it can fill.
But it's still outside of the normal 3D reality, right? So regular volume is really a 3D space effect. But when the force space enters in, it's subspace, right? The bending actually is beyond the regular volume and effectively warps it, causes a cutting off effect, which is like containment.
Quite clever. So Arwin's demonstrated, if you weren't sort of paying attention enough to realise that the first half of his statement was the concession, followed by the second half of the statement, which ignores entirely that he's just conceded. So not in reality, not in three-dimensional experience or reality will we have volume without containment. But this isn't reality. And in fourth dimensional space-time bending, blah, 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 blah. You've already just conceded this, so this isn't happening in reality then, correct?
No, but I'm only conceding to that because otherwise you'll go on a tangent and ask me for physical evidence in the 3D reality. And of course I can't, because it's not in reality. It doesn't mean it's not there.
Everyone stop. This is every time, even with Arwin. He's now giving us the most important concession, and he's got three people talking through him because it's objectionable.
It's just me.
Yeah, well, don't.
It's just me.
No, don't. He's just made his concession, and now I couldn't trim that out. So he's saying, I'm just saying that if I try and justify it within physical reality, you'll ask me for proof in physical reality. So therefore, I've declared that it isn't available to us. That's proof in physical reality. Therefore, I'll move it into the pseudo-Ramonian after my declaration of my loss that got rumpused by other people because it's objectionable.
Yeah, but you missed the end. You said that doesn't mean it's not there.
So what? Yeah, we need to hear it. No one will get to hear it now because Neil's decided he needs to talk through it. And 10th's decided that he needs to object through it. Right, yeah, if we can all hear it before we object, that'd be nice. Even though it's Arwin, we're still compelled to rumpus the devastating conclusion that he's making. His conclusion might come with a caveat afterwards, but all I need is to hear him say, this isn't available to us. That's physical proof, in physical evidence, in physical reality, in 3D space that we actually inhabit. I need to hear that. Just him saying, yeah, you're right, basically. He can then go on
I can try to formulate it again. If people don't talk over it, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a... Wow, chocolate. We're dealing with a gravity well, which is in pseudo-Riemannian force space, admittedly. And yeah, I mean, it is admitted that it's in another dimension. We can't actually reach that. We can only derive its existence from the inference of everything that we get to see and calculate.
That's also not true. That's a lie. Here we go. Either let's see if it's ignorance or malice. So you believe that the pseudo-Riemannian force space, that would be length, breadth, depth, and time, is translatable even mathematically into Euclidean 3 space. Is that what you're asserting? Because you're wrong if that's what you're asserting.
No, but hold on. You're talking now specifically about the formula of gravitation itself.
Yes.
Right? But
yeah.
the pseudo-space is
pseudo-space.
Definitely there.
The pseudo-space is definitely there. What, like physically there? No. Up until now, I've been lenient and not held you to your physical requirement to justify this in physical reality. But your description alluded to there being a potential to translate your gravity well in fourth-dimensional space-time bending to hold gas without containment in an area of volume that it's not expanding into in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. And said it's somehow describing what we experience in 3D space. That's what you actually said, and I'm saying no, not even mathematically.
Okay, well,
I thought I put it into this a half hour ago when I asked.
Wrong. Sorry.
I thought I put it in a half hour ago to this when I asked, can you have a volume without a container?
Exactly.
I like to ask Arwen what he thinks out of the pseudo-Riemannian force space is a causal power.
It isn't. He knows. He said he isn't. He's already disclaimed that. In a rumpus-like style, he's already disclaimed it, so he could appeal to... I've already said, I can't justify this in the fourth dimension, but we can take it, if he hadn't just been called out on it, from the fourth dimensional to the sort of reality dimension by inference. That's kind of what he said. I'm paraphrasing slightly. So, no, I mean, he's already disclaimed that, I would say.
Well, the whole core of the argument is that obviously the Earth is a ball surrounded by gas pressure, but still a giant outer space universe. The second law of thermodynamics typically does not account for any space beyond our regular 3D, and it doesn't justify why it is the way it is like
that's
that.
The end.
So
that's naughty.
pseudo-Riemannian force space is the thing that fixes this problem.
Stop. Maybe
you're rinsing me. I was
because
almost
you've already
done.
covered this, right? I have to do something about the fact that you're rinsing and repeating. So I already said, without appealing to your begging the question sky vacuum and fourth dimensional space-time bending in the sky above our heads, what have you got to demonstrate this? That was the first thing we did. Then Chocolate stepped in and just wiped the whole thing out by saying, how can you have volume without a container? But meanwhile, you're just appealing to your sky vacuum as a begging the question fallacy, the first thing that we covered. So we're just rinsing and repeating. You moan about me rumpusing you while you reassert your positive position again. Right, we've come full circle.
Isn't
Anything
that the
else?
entire point?
Your point? We've undone it. Don't go full circle.
If it isn't there, then why would I even bother trying to figure out pseudo-Riemannian force
If it
space?
wasn't there, why would I beg the question of it? I don't care. It's a begging the question fallacy. You're just appealing to the thing you're trying to prove when you point at the sky vacuum and say that there's bending geodesics in space-time happening there, and then try and justify it with a picture of a black hole. That's where we began. But you've got literally a dozen fallacies that go before that I had to summarise, and you commended me for. You just rinsing and repeating. What are you doing? Just in a playful mood?
I don't know. I don't think you
I like how you said if it wasn't there, while in the middle of all that, you said, well, it's not like I'm talking about 3D reality, but we could just think like I am.
No, but not like that 3D reality. Yeah, I might have said reality, but
let's move on.
It's just the 3D space, the one that we typically interact with.
You don't have to. You're not a baller. You don't have to squirm. You can just move on.
What are you talking about?
Ugh, really? Can we just move on? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
To the sun.
It's in the sky.
No, nobody got a
No, they
preconceived
need
notion
R
of
for
distance?
that. Any distances to the sun that the ballers give us are based on R value.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Oh well, the
No.
black swan at the best debunked the radius of the Earth.
That's what it did do.
Well, it does it on numerous occasions because if you scour the internet, you'll see dozens and dozens of black swans, which is basically Earth curve, the horizon, not being where it's supposed to be based on the height of the observer to match the globe math of 3959 and where Earth curve should start from the observer height. So if he's on top of a cliff, he's going to see further versus if he's 6 foot tall, they say you see 3 miles. And if you're 1 foot above sea level, it's got to be 1.2 miles out. Now, if that keeps changing and it's 10 miles out, 20 miles out, 30 miles out, the Earth's radius at 10 miles out is further than the distance they say is here to the moon. So the radius of the Earth in the black swan picture would go from 3,959 miles to over 250,000 miles, closer to 260. That's just the radius. That would make the diameter of this new Earth so big. It would ruin everything. The distance to the sun, airplanes would have to have air tankers refueling them in the sky. I mean, give me a break.
No, they can't do that. They just can't make it bigger. Tell them, Brian.
Well, it's worse than that because they officially claim that we never observe a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. We always observe a globe Earth with a radius that is at least 4,618.83 miles, as that is the radius for their globe with added 7/6R. And 7/6R is just 7/6R. They extend that to 8, 9, 10 ridiculous amounts over 6R. If you look into what the black swan would make it, I think it's like 145/6R or something crazy like that. So officially, the geometric horizon does not exist.
Which means officially, based on a paradox description of how the geometric horizon is refracted at a rate of 7/6 R, you've got a paradoxical debunking of your own assertion. Because in order to have 7/6 R, you need R. So you need a geometry for the sphere Earth. And if you can't see the geometric limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as is claimed to be blocking boats and buildings, then you haven't got any geometry to claim anymore.
The geometry
exactly.
the geometry that they have is the geometry that must follow if you say the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959. And since it doesn't, it falls under a thought experiment. So all it is saying, observe and declare, we live on a globe with a radius of 3959. And the geometric horizon is 1.2 times the square root of the height of the observer's All right. But we can never see it. Okay.
Where do all the boats and buildings go, though?
Well, no, hang on.
For all these years.
Hang on, Neil. So we can never see it where it's supposed to be because of the air and the atmosphere, whatever excuse refraction they give. But as Andrew Thomas Young, subject matter expert on refraction, said with the atmosphere, and he cornered himself by saying it's 1.32 miles. So, okay, so it's between what you can never see where it's supposed to be, and because of refraction, the most it could be 1.32 miles. Well, Black Swan and all the other Black Swan type pictures still put it way out there. So they lose on both things. So this proves it's a thought experiment. It's just a thought experiment.
I have to disagree with something.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I go after chocolate.
No. Go disagree with what I said because I'm quoting the subject matter expert.
Well, I was going to quote him too because I was going to ask, didn't he say he did all his refraction calculations on a flat plane?
Yes, they have to.
Well, where did he get the flat plane from if we're on a sphere?
Well, he had to do geometrical considerations because the Earth is not flat; it's a globe.
the geometric considerations in regards to having a tangent point to a sphere Earth edge, as is on screen now, with a big void through it because of this. So no longer do we have this straight line tangent. My most amusing part of the year so far was Ruhif asking Brian if he can have a bent line to a bent curved Earth, and me laying into him for about 15 straight comments going, what, is that a bent tangent, Ruhif? You think you can use a bent tangent? And then asking him over and over again how that geometric horizon's working out for him, as I've been doing for about the last 12 months. I mean, what it shows me is Ruhif is very, very stupid. It's taking a very long time for the cogs to turn, but at the point where he's asking Brian if he can bend a tangent, that's when I just laugh and just take the mickey as much as I possibly can. Brilliant. Has it finally figured it out? What, a bent line to a bent geometrically being measured and asserted to have boats and buildings blocked by it, Earth curve? No, you'll need a tangent point for that geometry. That's what it's based on. And when you bend the tangent, it's not a tangent anymore. Is this slowly sinking? It's only been 3 years. Speaking of which, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Hang on, please, just a second, Nathan. I just want to point out something to do with Ruhif.
Oh, yes, you had an issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Because when you brought up I'm feeding back on someone now. When you brought up the Andrew Thomas Young's 1.32, see, the problem with that is as soon as you start talking about that, would be 7/6 of the radius. As soon as you start talking about that, they can start bringing it into 8/6, 9, 10, 11/6. So even though Andrew Thomas Young appears to be contradicting himself, what he's actually doing is opening a door for himself to escape. So that's what that is. So the 1.32 is not the fact that is claimed 7/6R, which is an increase in the size of their globe. Now they can increase that to any size they want after that. So as soon as you allow that in the door, what I mean is, as soon as you start talking about that and expect that to be a consistency, it's not. That is the start of infinite over 6R.
I see.
It will still be below surface level, though.
Yes, I'm going to go there too, John.
Well, yeah.
It's supposed to be It's supposed to be geometric, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Geometric assertion.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and it's supposed to be a tangent line to a point, isn't it?
Yes, it's on screen now.
Yeah.
And the tangent line is straight, not bent, correct?
Yeah, but this is another thing. But Ruhif talking about bent tangents. That's Ruhif also trying to avoid what 7/6R is. 7/6R is not a bent tangent. 7/6R is an increase in the radius of the globe, right? To keep to straighten out the globe so it can match observations of distances to horizons. So that's the whole point. There isn't a bent tangent. They might draw it that way, but they draw it that way while they're keeping their globe 3959. But when they increase the radius, the tangent doesn't bend. The tangent doesn't bend. It's the globe out becomes bigger. So the let's just say the distance between the observer and the object straightens out more, but the tangent stays straight. So then bending tangents is actually not in line with what 7/6 and greater than 7/6R is.
Sure, but bending.
You know,
I appreciate what you're saying, but geometrically, if you say, okay, well, no, what that actually does, 7/6R is directly related to the R value, and the R value in this instance is the radius. So what you're doing is you're increasing the radius value. So therefore, the geometry remains the same. Obviously, you can't have a bent tangent, right? How's that geometric horizon working out for you? Oh, well, you've got to increase the size of the sphere. However, what are they telling you actually occurs when they pump up the size of the radius value and draw a straight tangent to it? Is the line that they're describing when they say it's bent now straight because they've inflated the ball in their geometry? Obviously not. They're telling us explicitly that the line is bent. Well, which line have we got to the geometric horizon? No, we don't have that. Well, then you don't have that. That's the end of the argument.
Well, I would like to point out that even if the horizon followed their geometry it would still exist only in the math below surface level.
Yeah, exactly, John, which is what my last video was about, which is the height of eye correction. You can't do the height of eye correction and have the horizon below surface level because you're correcting for the height of the eye. Your dip correction is for the height of the eye above the water beneath your boat. Your boat, that is the correction. So you can't do that if the horizon is below surface level, refracted, geometric, whatever they want to claim.
For me, this is the most embarrassing thing because we spent better part of a year arguing about the Isle of Man and using the maths that's on screen right now, and none of us spotted it. There it is, right? It's marked. It's in bold typeface with a horizontal line drawn. And when you talk about dip correction, you're talking about drawing a line out to the horizon at surface level. In other words, you can't draw out a line to do dip correction from a geometric horizon. They tell you themselves you can't see it. But what are you doing if you're doing celestial navigation? Well, you're drawing out a line to the surface level. That's what you're doing. You're doing it with reference to a horizontal plane. And so is their geometry. That's why it's here. They need a horizontal plane to assert globe Earth geometry. Or to put it another way, you're gonna need a flat Earth for that globe Earth assertion.
That's why that guy said to you, I'll give you the flat Earth. What was his name again?
Conspiracy cats?
Yes, I got him right this time. I'll give you the flat Earth because he has to.
No, that's not why quite. With conspiracy cats, it's because he had to acquire an elevation angle measurement to assert angular sizes and angular changes when he's looking at the Blackpool Swan. Well, when you're talking about an angular measurement in any respect, it's two straight lines meeting at a vertex. So for him to make that assertion, he had to give us a flat Earth. QE caught that immediately.
After John, I'd like to go.
Yeah, I was going to say one better where Proto Thad said, don't, I think it was, don't get hung up on the flat plane, because he needed to use it to get the angles to assert the geometry. So it was like, don't get hung up on the fact that we're having to use a flat to assert it's a globe. That was hilarious.
Yeah, Nathan, you just hung up on that.
Yeah, don't get hung up on that flat plane we need.
Okay, you changed the slide. Go back to that slide.
Oh, that's not as easy as
One
it
more
seems.
back.
I'll just let it play through till it gets to it. He'll get to it in the
Yeah,
next
that's
slide,
fine. So the thought experiment, once we get to the slide, is the X. See, they don't live on a globe. They need straight tangent lines for everything. They need a bent one for a globe, so it can't work. And so they draw this dingleberry under the horizontal that's necessary. And it's up now, so I see it. Surface level. You see the X horizon is below surface level. So this is what John is saying, is below sea level. So now you've cut into the, you're going underwater basically at this point. And so this green horizon with the X, that's the thought experiment. Because if I live on the globe, it needs to be there, but I can never see it.
Oh yeah.
Quick shout out. Ills G, unless you got something to add, just a quick shout out to Mike 808, which just gives me money. Thank you very much for the support, Mike. Really appreciate the support. Did you want to add something, Ills G? He's muttering off mute. No, he's just joined a live show and buggered off, leaving his mic wide open. Because that's what you do.
So let me summarize. Andrew Thomas Young's takes all his refraction studies from a plane surface, that surface level you see there. But because he has to believe he lives on the globe, he draws an X where it should be Earth curvature starting, but it can never be observed. So he's got to follow the math, but the math can never be observed in reality. That's why it's a thought experiment. This whole thing under surface level is a thought experiment.
The Bowler's celestial navigation argument always starts the same way. It's always a delta X argument, like all their arguments. So they always start with the angles already haven't been measured. They covered up by trying to talk about the angles. Let's just say they start throwing in the amount of minutes and seconds in the angle, and they throw in terms like, well, the index error was blah, 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 and we were shooting for blah, blah, and they start throwing out some names of the stars to try and be intimidating. But really what's going on is they don't want to address that the process that they are just after highlighting required the Earth to be a horizontal plane to do it. But they want to go from there then to circles of equal altitude or something put onto a universal transverse Mercator map that distorts absolutely everything. All the actual real world measurements are distorted. And then they want to undistort it for themselves with the Haversine formula and place it onto a globe that exists underneath surface level.
Yeah, Brian, I got to go here. I want to summarize before I go. It's a short day for me. They're not even doing it from this dingleberry circle or portion of a circle in purple. Their measurements is where the vertex is. And their vertex is from the center of the Earth, which is a plane, equatorial plane. And the Nautical Almanac, the Air Almanac, all of it, they're saying when you do the math, you're basically matching if your eyeballs were on the equatorial plane. Now, when the pictures come up as the slideshow continues and the show continues, you'll see that if you cut the Earth in half, their globe, that's a disk. So their vertex has never, ever, 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 ever come off from a curved surface because they say they're on the curved surface with a sextant. They need a transverse
Mercator map?
No, they need to have something match that equatorial plane. So that's why they draw the horizontal line called surface level here. And they transpose it with the one at the equator and say, because the distances are so far, 3,959 miles between where the observer is and the equatorial plane, it's negligible. So we can treat the surface as flat because we're getting it from a flat equatorial plane. So it's never being measured from any curve because you can't get an angle from a curved baseline. So they're not even doing it. That's why it's so embarrassing when you read their own books to them, because they'll say, yeah, but if you keep reading, the guy who wrote the book thinks we're on the globe. I go, yeah, but the measurements are coming from a plane.
Big shout out to Godzilla37 who says, Mike forgot to say hi. So hi from Mike. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Well, that was my point, you see, with the Delta X, that they are skipping straight past what actually really happens in the real world. They're bringing it, once they've measured those things, they're bringing it to the center of their globe, right? They use the vertex at 90 degree at the center of their globe. But then what they're doing is they're hijacking the arc scale and the circle to measure a distance along the arc above them. And that's all they're doing. And after that, then it's straight to transverse Mercator map and then onto the Haversine. You know what I mean? That's what, and they come at you with a lot of maths. It's exactly the same as every other thing in heliocentrism. All you have is maths, nothing else.
Let's ask the question, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No, there's no mathematical evidence of that.
Negative.
No, you can't do height and void dip correction with the horizon being lower in elevation than the water underneath your boat.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
I'd be happy with an observed phenomenon of gravity.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not possible.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
He waves and S waves.
You'll need a flat Earth for that.
Sonogram.
Yeah, sonogram. Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Measuring return angles.
Yeah, but they're saying it's heating up more, and they're worried that this molten iron core could actually blow and destroy the whole Earth. fear that. There's even a movie made.
Okay. It's not a question of is there any fear porn based on the self-perpetuating molten iron core, but is there any evidence, not of evidence of fear porn, evidence of the molten iron core itself?
Well, why would they make a movie about it, Nathan, if it's not real?
What, like Narnia?
Just like zombie.
Yeah, zombies.
I honestly love the fear porn. I love that people who think this globe has been here for billions and billions of years and it's been spinning around and rotating and orbiting flawlessly for all these years. If we don't stop breathing, we're going to end in like 10 years. I love that shit.
Right.
Well, is there anything such thing as negative terrestrial refraction? You know, because their terrestrial refraction increases the concavity or convexity of Earth. Like with they can't really do that with the P waves and S waves. So is there like a negative terrestrial refraction where they increase the concavity? I don't know if that's a word.
Gotcha. What you're saying is, as they're going down towards the centre, they'd need to account for anomalies by, would it be decreasing the size of the sphere at a rate of r, though? For their refraction.
Well, it would still be increasing it, but you would be reversing the angle. But you know, you'd be 180 degrees the other way from what you were measuring initially. You know,
I gotcha. So your correction is to widen the angle slightly based on an increased spherical value. Is that what you're saying?
Wait, yeah, but it just doesn't seem like it would work that way because their tangent would be above their head, or
yeah,
well, you'd have to flip upside down and it would be curving upwards from that reference.
The reference is still going to be reference to a flat plane if you're measuring a return angle, right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Is there any like anti terrestrial refraction for that in their rhetoric?
And if there isn't, they're just measuring a flat Earth.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. I think that's it. I think we've covered all the housekeeping questions. I don't think I missed any. Should you do a bit more, Sabine?
Yes, please.
See if I can get Il's G's attention. Can you hear us? Il's G? You disappeared. Lift your mic open. Can you hear us? Check. No? Clearly not. I'll just leave him on serve mute. Okay.
You missed one question, Nathan.
Oh, did I? I felt like I'd missed something. What did I miss?
Is there any evidence that great circle roots are circles?
Is there any evidence that great circle roots are actually circles?
So far, no. No commercial pilot or anyone else can come up with any actual evidence of that claim.
If they had...
all they came at me with. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, if the pilots specifically had it, they wouldn't want to give it to you.
Why not?
Because they'd lose their job.
If they had evidence of a great circle root being a circle.
Yeah. The way you specifically can package that would mean that they're essentially going against the globe Earth rhetoric if they provided you with that information, which is very difficult to acquire, correct?
Are you talking about if they could prove that a great circle root was actually a circle in reality? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, that would be offered up, wouldn't it? But instead of that, what we've got is occulted maps for things like pilots. We aren't privy to the same... they don't even call them maps, do they? Charts. We don't get them, do we?
No, we don't get to see their charts. No, a lot of their charts are they're either 2D. They're all 2D because they don't need 3D because they don't have elevations to deal with. So all their charts are either going to have 2D long or 2D XY or whatever.
Well,
Hey, Brian. A few months ago, I posted a video in Discord where there was a second mate of a transport ship that was detailing this great circle routes, and he actually said on tape, it looks like a circle in here, but in reality, it's actually straight, flat. I could post that in Discord.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, let me find it.
Yeah, because that's the argument we're making with the housekeeping question. Is there any evidence that great circle routes are circles? Because we know they're just straight line routes. There's no route that they call as being what they would say is part of a great circle route that doesn't work exactly the same in a straight line. So they have to prove that this is an arc they're traveling. Because all they've got as proof is the Haversine formula and spherical trigonometry. But that's not proof of anything.
Which is nonsense in and of itself, because if they're going to say, right, if we convert this charted out route done for the most efficient delivery of passengers, for the sake of argument, or cargo, doesn't matter. Well, the only person that's going to be wanting to do that is going to want the most efficient route. So what they're going to want? Well, they're going to want it to run in a straight line. Well, okay. So you've got to travel in a straight line then to make it the most efficient. But if you convert that to a globe Earth based projection, it actually curves. Okay, well that's meaningless because it doesn't, and it wouldn't. Why would it? It's a commercial entity that wants to make themselves the most efficient that they can. So to say if I do this magic maths, it's curving. All right. Well, so what? Does that mean that it's actually curving when airlines just take a straight path?
Well, the only rebuttal I got, now it wasn't from one of the commercial pilots, because all they could give me was the Haversine formula. And Wolfie and that wanted to argue with me about the Haversine formula. And like, it's a begging the question fallacy, But there was when they couldn't do anything with that, as far as providing evidence, because they tried to use the Haversine formula as evidence. It's like, that's the whole point. It's not evidence. That's the point. One of the ballers started asking me, well, where is your replacement for the Haversine formula? It's like, you don't understand. We don't need a replacement for it. We just have straight lines. You need the Haversine formula to curve straight line distances. That's what it is. Like this one lad didn't understand why we don't need a replacement. Why would we need a replacement for that? The only reason that exists is as a confirmation bias if you're a globe believer.
Yeah, its only purpose is for them to beg the question that it's curved when it's straight. That's its only purpose.
Yeah.
He asked you for your version of a formula that supposedly changes the globe from being a globe to a globe. He asked you that.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the flat Earth version? It's like, we don't have a version. We don't need it.
Well, they're a flat Earth religion, so yeah, it's technically a flat Earth version that they're using. It needs the flat plane to transform it into the sphere. So I don't think he understood that.
Yeah, you're right, John, because the globe is the flat Earth model. So that is actually correct, yeah. I wasn't thinking that way. Yeah, the Haversine is the flat Earth version.
Yeah, they're not realising that what they're saying is, give me your version of turning a flat Earth into a globe. Like, well, it's already flat, and you're taking that and converting it into a globe, and you're asking me for my version of doing that when I say you don't need to do it. And it's not done. Nobody's doing Haversine conversions when they're getting flat charts and referencing them to the lines that have been drawn on the charts based on elevation angles from a flat plane to a light in the sky. No globes necessary.
That just sounds like a response of, quick, just say something.
Well, I think that they're starting to, and as Nathan talked about Ruth earlier, they're starting to reach a point where their own model is starting to mutate the way they think, because to not understand, to even ask that question, where is your flat Earth replacement for the Haversine? To even ask that question means either you don't understand why the Haversine exists, or you can't comprehend why the Havre sign exists. If you know what I mean.
You know whereabouts in this video this takes place, Stag?
Right at the 320
it is.
mark, they start talking about it.
Sorry, somebody's just sent me the timestamp, just as I asked you. 3:20.
I think it's great, Brian.
I should really announce what the video is called. So this is called Bridge Tour Super Yacht Transport Ship. Super Yacht Captain is the name of the channel, and I've just put a link to it in the chat. So if you're watching live, just go and check it out.
Some old voyage preparation.
So if you were to put a great circle on the chart, it will appear as a curve, not a straight line.
So on this Mercator projection, this will be like this, like you see
on the screen.
Because on the Egg screen is also Mercator projection.
Yeah.
Okay, so saying on the Mercator projection, what we show you is a curved line.
Absolutely.
But on the real Earth, it is like this, like the straight line.
Yes. It's very hard to put your mind around.
Okay, so in reality, straight. On the map, curved. Right? Well, what are the lines on the map? Oh, well, they're circles. The straight lines on the map are circles. Yeah. Circles of equal elevation from Polaris. All right, I see. So we've got curved lines as a grid system that are straight, and therefore a straight line appears curved. That makes sense. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But ultimately, what's happening in reality? We're travelling straight. Why the hell would you travel this big-ass boat in a curved path when it'll take longer?
Well, what the ballers claim is that that curved line is a straight line. That's their claim. Because you don't deviate. They literally call a curved line a straight line. I will shout out Bev for this, because Bev had him saying this. This is where he got the curvizontal from, because that's where that came from. Was they were claiming that a curved line that you're not deviating from on your path. If you were taking a curved path, then that's a straight line. That's what the ballers. That's how they like to think about it.
Bendizontal.
Bendizontal.
Wow.
That's it. Bendizontal. Yeah. So yeah, Bev did have him talking about bendizontal.
Wait, hold on. A curve, if you're following a curved line and you don't deviate from that curved line, you can consider that line straight?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What the hell? These people are getting crazier and crazier.
I've also got to actually thank Bev for his little interaction with
Last week we had this customer that kept coming in for PC.
It's just...
Yeah, sorry about that, Nathan. That was really good. I understand what you did. You had the guy right on there showing you that he has been gaslit.
Flat. It's horizontal, right? Yeah. It's nothing else.
See, I call it vertical because it's up and down.
Well, it's perpendicular, isn't it?
Yeah.
Horizontal and vertical. Level is... It's not curved at all, is it?
No, it's flat. No, it's flat.
Can't have a curve in it.
Can't be curved, no, it's flat.
Brilliant. Cheers, mate.
All right. No, it's flat. Can't be curved, no, it's flat.
Brilliant. Cheers, mate.
There. Just wanted to point that little clip out. Somebody sent me a little clip of various different surveyors talking about surveying Earth as flat. But that was Bev talking to a surveyor who says, yeah, it's flat. Now, you notice Bev didn't flat shame him when he described horizontal, level, flat as flat, because that's what it is. He just said, thanks, mate. Of course, if he's trying to manipulate you, that's Bev, that is. He'll flat shame you if you suggest it's flat. Not to a surveyor, a professional, guy actually doing the job. When he says it's flat, thanks very much, mate. No flat shaming involved, right? That's because it's flat. Unless you're being gaslit that level and horizontal aren't flat. You know, then you'll be flat shamed by some psychopath. But there we go. Just thought I'd drop that in there as we were talking about it.
Yeah, he steps out of the realms of reality, because he actually starts talking about how level and horizontal, when he's talking about them, he's not referring to the Earth. which is what QE picked him up on, was that how can you not be referring to the Earth if you're talking about horizontal? Is you don't have a reference point unless you're referring to the horizon. So Bev contradicts himself because he'll then in the next breath say all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. So he's contradicting himself when he says that when he's talking about level and being and horizontal being the same thing, he's not making any reference to the Earth. You can't not make a reference to the Earth.
Right.
Because
I mean,
a baller could say the same thing, if you understand what I mean.
Sure, but that's
And
not
they
who
could
Bev's
say,
appealing
oh,
to.
yeah.
So for those of you in the audience who are unaware who we're talking about some guy who's rounded up a load of lost soul flat earthers who are sick of the ridicule and don't want to say the Earth's flat anymore. So this guy's appealed to these lost souls and gone, I've got a way of letting you say Earth isn't flat, and laughing in the face of people who say it does present itself as flat. So that's what this guy's appealed to. And I didn't know there was such a massive amount of lost souls that need comforting because they don't want to suffer the ridicule of declaring the Earth is obviously and observably flat. So I put out a video trimmed out from the Ballbuster show on Saturday with me saying, man up, it is flat, deal with it. And the fact that some narcissist decided to gaslight you into your comforting belief that it isn't, so you can feel like you're being truthful when you put a hand on heart and say, no, Earth's not flat. Yeah, it is. Don't be gaslit.
Yeah, because he contradicts himself.
Seems as if...
Sorry, I just want to say, John, he contradicts himself as in his own words, his whiteboard is flat, but it's not two-dimensional. So you can't attack someone for saying it's flat because and say it's not flat because hills exist. I mean that's not a fair platform, is it? Or not platform. I can't remember a word for now.
Position. It's not a reasonable position. And ultimately speaking, generally speaking, we don't give a toss about these people. If you are inclined to round up lost soul flat earthers who don't want to admit that Earth's flat because it's embarrassing socially, and they want somebody that can offer them evidence that doesn't conflict with their understanding of how Earth's flat, but gives them an out for not saying it. You know, then if you want to do that in some quiet little server somewhere, no worries. But the moment you start coming out and flat shaming people because they understand that the Earth's obviously and observably flat, and then encourage them to come to us and say, over at this particular server, we get fundamentalist religious ball-believing zealots to admit that horizontal is level. It's amazing. You're like, wow, what an achievement. But when I point out that as an overall topology doesn't make Earth completely flat, but you have a horizontal reference plane used to describe the surface, that's a flat Earth. Now, for the people who've gone and been brainwashed by somebody who's decided to gaslight them that means Earth isn't flat, they'll boldly declare to you how flat it isn't after telling you how wonderful it is that you've got a ball believer who thinks the ground is curving to tell you that it isn't curving. Just spell this out for those who've been gaslit. That means the ground is flat. Now, if you want to take comfort in somebody telling you that you don't have to say that conclusory statement, grow a pair of balls. Take some pride in what you know to be true. That means it is flat. Earth is flat. That's level. Horizontal. Give me no toss about this. I've got valleys. I've got mountains. Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. And likewise, a flat whiteboard has got microscopic undulations in it. Doesn't alter what we can describe it as. That's a flat Earth. Because that's precisely how it's navigated and measured. As you all well know. Don't deny what you are. It's pathetic.
And it uses one of the arguments where the ballers try to confuse topology with the baseline that you measure that topology against. You know? It's really sad.
Well, the claim that was it No Thanks made the other night that he had heard Bev get the ballers at times to state that level is horizontal or the two are synonymous. I don't think that ever happened. Now, I can't state hand on heart it didn't, but I don't think it ever happened, because if it did, because I did listen to Bev for a long time, up until just before Christmas, a couple of years, and I never heard any soundbite. But you would have heard a soundbite. I don't remember any soundbite. I don't want to misrepresent him if he did get that soundbite, but I've never heard a soundbite on his show from a baller stating that level is horizontal. I've never heard that. So I think people might have it in their head that has happened, but it actually has never happened. They might say level can be described as horizontal at a point. That's what they would say, and they're begging the question when they say that. So they're not admitting or conceding that level is horizontal. So that's not a concession. That's a different thing. So I have never heard it. I don't know if it did happen, but I have never heard it.
Brian, they have it in their head because Bev said it.
Look, he's bringing
Well, I think
comfort.
they have it in their head that it happened.
Just for Neil, don't blame the people that have been gaslit. They have been out there looking for comfort. They don't want to be flat earthers anymore. They're sick of the ridicule. I don't blame them. And I understand that those lost souls are going to look for somewhere to house themselves. And he's appealed to their need to not be flat earthers. Not deny the evidence that they understand, but their need to not be that. He's appealed to that. And up until now, it's been successful. If he had kept himself a bit quieter, it'd have done better. He's just showed his hand too much when he's come here with all of the people he's brainwashed at his side to try and keep them brainwashed. Like, no, you've got too lofty aspirations, my friend, because you're just going to get annihilated. And we're going to point out your contradictions and doublespeak. And those of them on the fringes of your little cult that you're developing will notice. And hopefully the people who don't notice, can't figure it out, don't understand, still want to parrot off your nonsense that's contradictory, they'll watch the other people on the fringes deserting you and ask themselves, why are they being desertful of our illustrious leader and his doublespeak nonsense and lies that have been proven to me again and again and again. I've had to defend the lie. I've explained why he has to lie. Yeah, well, maybe you'll detach yourself from that gaslighting nonsense too, because we'll make it more and more clear. As QE says, don't tug on Superman's cape. It won't end well. That's all we're doing. Don't come here selling us, why are you attacking my nonsense doublespeak about not being able to do anything with an angle? When I talk about theodolites and what we'll do with them. Yeah, because you're a double-speaking clown who's gaslighting your entire panel and audience and members who are presumably giving you money to give them comfort because they don't want to be flat earthers anymore. Well, they're not going to get that comfort from me. Quite the contrary. Like a stern telling off. Don't deny what you are. You are a flat earther. Deal with it. You want comfort because people tell you that you're stupid because you're a flat earther. Oh, well. Man up. Deal with it. Don't deny what you are just because somebody's told you don't have to say Earth's flat because it's got mountains and valleys, but simultaneously have to deny the very nature of measuring angles from it. Or claim that you can't do anything with them because somebody's pointing out how Earth is flat and how the angles are acquired from it. Yep, pathetic. Just losing grip over your gaslit audience, it seems. Anyway, shout out to Uncool Bev.
What?
Close your eyes because it's slightly vulgar. Being laughed at by a glowtard is like being caught knocking one out by the cat. Who cares? It's only a cat. Thank you for the super chat, Uncool Ben.
I was going to say, why would you let what the Globers say to you about being a flat earther bother you when their religion is a flat earth religion? I don't understand that.
I flip it around on them now. I make them feel silly. The other day, there was a guy challenging us. My brother called me and he said, yeah, this guy's asking questions. So I said to him, why, you think you live on a spinning water ball? Really? In 2023? I laughed at him.
That's making you just as bad as them, but there we go.
Yeah, you
well,
gotta
what I
sit
would
down
say,
sometime.
what I'd say about what's happening with Bev and this flat shaming thing is it's no different than what the ballers have tried to do to us for a long time, for going back into the 1800s and maybe before. And the whole thing about people not being able to see through the contradiction and to support the contradiction and support when there's an obvious lie after being told, that's exactly what they do for Blue Marble Science or Rumpus or anyone else. They just go along with it. So how is it any different if if it's happening with Bev, how is he any different than Blue Marble Science, someone he's always arguing with? How is he any different, and these followers any different, if they're going to tolerate the same thing as Blue Marble's Science's followers tolerate? There's no difference.
No, there isn't. Well, while we dwell on that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
And I watched it, and the guy started talking about a conversation he had with a guy in France. He had communications online, and this guy was telling him that the horizon is not our curve. And the guy had to throw in, well, I guess he wasn't in an airplane before or something like that. It's like he had to throw in that in his own, like, because in his own mind, this guy, and I left a comment there for him to see if he'd get back to me. I tell him I'd go live with him for his audience if he wants to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to this subject. He didn't get back to me so far, but he had to, even though the guy told him the horizon is not our curve and explained it out to him in whatever way he explained it, all he could do was ask a man about conspiracy, ask this guy, whoever he was, conspiracy questions like, well, why are they lying? And, stuff like that. And then he brought up the fact that, well, was he never on an airplane? This kind of thing. It's like, you have to say that, because in your own head, if you've been in an airplane and you believe it's a globe, you have to believe that you saw the curve of the globe Earth from an airplane. You have to believe that, that happened. The same way as that lad came in the other night to Ballbusters and had to believe that this concession was given by a baller, on the Try Thinking server.
But I don't understand
it's the
that,
same thing.
Brian.
You have to believe it happened.
Yeah, but I was on a plane and it was all flat. I
Yeah,
don't get that.
But if you believe it's a globe, then regardless of what you see out that window, you have to deny it in your own head, and it's a weird thing. But this guy covers controversial topics, and he goes against a lot of stuff. But when it came to this topic, he instantly had to tell himself that he saw the curve of a globe out the window of an airplane.
Yeah, the guy did ask me. He said, "I'd like to see. Is there any pilots that believe Earth is flat?" I said, "Yeah, there are quite a few of them that have come out and spoke about it and been grounded because of it." So he was like, "I would like to hear that." So I gave him all the information. I told him how to join the show. Maybe one day he'll pop on.
Well, there is that lady flying for, I think it was KLM she flew for in Holland in 2017, when she came out as being a flat earther to her co-pilot of 10 years, who was a friend she taught of 10 years. The guy contacted her co-pilot, maybe when she was in the bathroom or something, contacted the ground source or whatever. And when she landed, there was a psychiatrist waiting for her, and she lost her commercial license. Last I heard, she was ground staff. You know what I mean? That's what they do. So no one's going to come out, no pilot is going to come out and state, no, the Earth is flat. They're not going to do that, because they probably have to sign things these days to say they can't talk about what they do.
But does it
You know how,
box office
how
for
crazy
somebody?
that is? You know
Yeah.
how crazy that is that you had psychiatrists waiting on the ground waiting for her to get off the plane? That's how crazy it is that this pilot thinks it's flat.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder what that conversation was. Oh, we got one here. You better be waiting for her. She's dangerous. She said the Earth is flat.
But the Simpsons used that as a sketch, that kind of thing as a sketch in the past, where someone would say something and it would just go against the rhetoric, and suddenly a team of psychiatrists would turn up or a psychiatrist would turn up and label the person as crazy. You know, that's how they character assassinate the subject, by character assassinating the person. You know, so they had to make this woman out to be crazy when she was just speaking the truth. You know, and I mean, how many? That's like 2017. That's now 6 years this year. So how many pilots since then have wanted to say something and can't? And you have lowlifes like Wolfie 6020 who knows they can't, who knows that their career will go down the drain, and he still promotes the globe, even though he never supports anything with any actual real evidence. You know what I mean? So you have people like Wolfie who are poisoning the well all the time. And then you have this thing where pilots just will not come out. You're not going to lose your career. You're not going to do that. It's okay for me. They can attack me all they want. They can't take away my commercial license that I never had. They can't take away my engineering license that I never had. So I'm a free agent in that way. They can't do that, take away a career I didn't have. But they can do it if you're a pilot or an engineer or whatever, you know.
Hey, I got a question.
Good.
So a few days ago, there was a powerful storm, and I have this satellite TV service, and they had to come and readjust point to whatever, satellite or something like that. So I got to thinking about the satellite things and how many people online TikTok will say there's no satellites, this and that. Well, obviously they are pointing at something, because without that direction, well, you're not getting the TV signal. So what could they be pointing at? A tower? Who knows?
Well, I mean, what they say, like if they're telling you that there's these things that are orbiting a globe Earth in an infinite vacuum at 10 to the minus 17 torr of a pressure, then that has to be incorrect. Now, whether they're always pointing at something on the ground, I don't know. It is possible to keep a high altitude balloon up there if you use the gases right at an altitude, and it would be too small for you or me to see. But why even try and, like, I couldn't make any claim about it because I'm not 100% sure on it. So why even go into that? Like, whatever they're pointing at, it doesn't matter. It's not what they're telling you it is. And that's all that matters. It can't be what they're telling you it is. Sorry. What?
I was just going to say, can you have a signal bounce off of something that isn't there?
Well, funny enough, John, they say there's 14 satellites in succession, and I believe they relay info off of each other. So they're also in a constellation together.
Or they're bouncing it off the container back down at the surface somewhere.
Got a video on this. I'm just going to post it in Master B. If someone can post it in Discord, just so they can see it.
Say that again, John?
I was saying, or they're just bouncing it off the container to a ground-based system.
I'm just going to play a quick video.
Right.
Just one sec.
I'd love to see a model of that, but yeah, I'll
Check out the line of sight on this satellite dish. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Excellent satellite reception. Love it. Okay, so what that was, if you guys are even remotely interested, who's off the news? Neil. Neil.
Sorry.
This isn't just a hospital.
Where's that coming from? Oh, I've got video playing. I can't figure out who the hell it is. It's because Neil distracted me, so I had to click off the screen to stop him being on bloody... Thanks, Neil.
What are you trying to show, Nathan?
Accident.
Thank you. So that was a video of a dish that's attached to the side of a house here in Leamington, right? And because of the way that the structures of the houses are here, they're what were called at the time mudflood houses, which is to say that they're below the street level, like considerably below street level. The first floor for these buildings is street level. Therefore, the people below that have still got satellite dishes, but they point at brick walls. It just cracks me up. So they're literally pointing at a brick wall below. Oh,
Go ahead.
I'll give up. Forget it.
Don't they have to have line of sight?
If I'd have got to the end of my sentence, you might have found that out, but...
Also, John, can you speak on that bounce off the container? Can you speak on that a little bit more?
Well, they call it atmospheric bounce when they're talking about like ham radio and things like that. But can you bounce off of something that doesn't exist?
Good question.
Like, you know, when you shoot radar at a car traveling down the road, why are you not getting atmospheric bounce there? You shouldn't be able to, you know, use radar to measure anything if air can bounce your signal back.
So you're
Well, I
disproving
think
your
it would have been.
containment? Or?
That's a good point.
Well, I think they're using microwaves, are they, with that with the speed guns? That's to be straight line. Radar is not straight line. There is some radar that's straight line, but it depends on the frequency or whatever. But I would have liked to hear. Sorry, John.
Just saying, either way, though, they're claiming it's bouncing off something. How do we know that's not the container?
Well, it has to bounce off of something physical. Like they came up with the ionosphere. That's what they came up with when they couldn't explain how Marconi was able to get a signal from Canada to southern England, to Cornwall, is it? So they had to come up with an explanation. So they come up with the ionosphere, which is another begging the question. And is that a height that nobody has ever proven existed? I'm not saying it doesn't, but you can only, what can you prove past the height that a high altitude balloon can rise to? You can prove nothing. What else can you do? Maybe a rocket? I don't know. What could you do? You know, how could you prove anything past the maximum height of a high altitude balloon? You know, I don't know what.
Well, I don't want to make claims on that. I don't want to make claims on the height that it's having to travel. I'm just saying that it's coming into contact with something physical to come back down, to have that bounce.
I wasn't making claims about the height. What I meant is that they came up with the ionosphere, and their claim of the ionosphere not only is a begging the question, but it's at a point in the sky that nobody can validate, is my point. Nobody can go up to where they say the ionosphere is because it's at a height that I don't know of any way of validating that height. If you know what I mean. I think the highest validation I could get online was between 30 and 36 miles or something with high altitude balloons when I looked. So what else have you got without other than high altitude balloons? Maybe rockets, but they can tell you any story about them. You know, because you're not going to be able to fire a rocket up, John. You won't be able to get a rocket that will go up 30, 40 miles in the sky. You won't be able to do that. You won't be allowed. The people who are allowed to do it can make a claim that rocket is going any distance they want, because you can't verify it's not, or you know what I mean. And you can't get your own rocket that can do that because you won't be allowed to have that.
Right, but you can verify that there's a physical barrier it's bouncing off of because the signal comes back down.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're getting a signal so it's bouncing off of something. So if it's something in the sky, then it's bouncing off of something solid to bounce. Otherwise, it's not going to bounce. It's going to keep going. If there's nothing there to hit, it can't hit something. kind of, you're not going to.
Right.
I'd like
So
Nathan
when
to
the guy-
retell the
when-
story. Go on, sorry.
So the Marconi guy was actually proving that we are in an enclosed system, a contained system. I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
Well, I don't know if he made any claims about what it was bouncing off of. He just said that he could get that signal to from Canada to Cornwall, or Cornwall to Canada, sorry, and he did, which went against what they believe.
But he didn't have to make a claim because he did get that signal and he did shoot it up in the air, right? So unless you're a concaver who believes the Earth's curving up, which, you'll still have the whole black swan problem to deal with and celestial navigation. So unless you believe the Earth is bending up, you have no answer for that.
Yeah, exactly. There is no answer for it. I would like Nathan to maybe give a second go at telling the story he was telling a few minutes ago, because that would be interesting. If he'd be willing to do it and everyone just not interrupt him, because I know what he was.
I want to interrupt him once. I just want to interrupt him once, but I'll wait until he's about
Scout's
halfway
honor.
through, so it's most effective.
Scout's honor.
I was just kidding. I won't interrupt you, Nathan. I think he went to go get coffee, though. Sounds like coffee break. All right, quick, everybody, start cussing. This is our chance.
F-bomb, F-bomb.
Demonetize the show.
There's a delay. There's definitely a delay.
Oh, good.
F-bomb, F-bomb.
No, don't, please.
Oh, we want you to tell your story again.
What story?
Now that you got your crumpets and tea, whatever you going to say.
I've no idea what you're talking about. Sorry.
I asked you weren't. I didn't know you weren't there. I asked, would you consider telling the story again, the one you were telling that you got interrupted while you were telling, concerning satellites, dishes, and that.
No,
And
that was
I asked
it.
if everyone
I'd
would be-
finished. I was 2 breaths away from the end of my sentence. That was it. It was just showing a video. I've posted it in Master B of a dish below ground level, basically. That was all it was.
Do you think,
Yeah,
Nathan,
pointing
in
at a
that
wall.
do you think in that situation it was just, in a splitter in line and that was just an obsolete dish there?
No, I think that was their dish.
Is it possible they were bouncing the signal off the ground into the air? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I just know what I saw.
Well, right. It was aimed at the ground, right?
Yeah.
And you were getting reception?
It was I don't know. I didn't have access to the house. I just observed a dish that had been wired up with wires going into the house, presumably to a satellite box. But I can only say presumably because I didn't knock on the door and go, does your satellite dish actually work? It's just a decoration.
I've seen them as decorations before in trailer parks. So,
Okay, this is on the side of a. Let's have a guess. I'm going to say about today it would be a £500,000 property. Yes, it's below the ground level. Yes, it's still worth £500,000 in the centre of Leamington.
Those mud flood houses are expensive.
My point is, this particular person wouldn't be putting a satellite dish on the side of their property for decoration. They'd only be putting it on as an eyesore because they wanted reception.
So pointing it at the ground and bouncing it off something physical worked for them to get reception then, assumably. That'd be a reasonable assumption to make, right?
It'd be a reasonable assumption that as long as the dish is orientated correctly, the signal that it's receiving is being received because it's brute forcing its way through everything. Because even in the location, even if it was above ground level, there's buildings all around it. Right? So it's not got a line of sight to the horizon. But the signal that's coming out It's coming out with a lot of power from whatever ground signal generator that they've got. It's not coming from satellites in space. There's no space, right? Well, we know about all the ground systems that they use now because they're a bit more open about it. But for some reason, it's a stretch for people to say, no, that's just an antenna. It's just receiving a signal, a strong one that's brute forcing its way around all the buildings. That's all that's happening.
Right, but that's signal, because like it may be reflecting and losing some of its strength as it reflects, but it's reflecting off something physical, right? Nobody's asserting that it's just going to a random spot in air and then changing its angle back another direction. I don't think, are they?
I don't know. I don't know what they'd say. Hopefully someone will see that video and go, nah, it obviously is doing X, Y, and Z, because it's pointing at the ground below ground level, but it works thus. I don't know. I'm not a satellite engineer. Although I did work with them relatively closely occasionally when I was doing installation work with high-end hi-fi systems, there'd be a satellite engineer there. And they'd have the little box and they'd line up the dish to whatever angle it's supposed to be. And then they'd test if it got a signal. And if it got a signal, they were happy. I doubt they'd ever question whether the whys and wherefores of what they were doing beyond what they'd been trained to do, point it in a particular direction, and then test if it works. If it works, they're happy. They go, it's working, and then go. They don't go, it's working, but don't worry about the fact that it's pointing at a brick wall. They just go, it's working. You happy? Yep, I'm happy. Bye-bye.
Well, there was a woman in one of your videos who pointed a dish, was it 120 miles over the surface, and she was told that they didn't like it.
Yeah, Robin Poe. Yeah, that was out in Ferrari in Italy. So she's pointing back at the source because she can't get the relay to work because there's stuff in the way of the relay, like hills. So she can't get a line of sight, and in that instance, she needed one. And the way it was in the book is every, 10k, you put a relay up. Well, she tried that and it didn't work, so she points back at the source, which is 115 miles away, and it instantly worked because it had a direct line of sight.
All right, there it is, line of sight, right? So, like, when you're shooting a pool ball and you bank it off a wall, that pool ball can't bank off of nothing. It has to hit something like a ball or another wall, right?
Yeah.
So when Marconi fired his signal from the ham radio, it had to bank off something physical to come back down to Earth, would it not?
That was always my favorite argument for Marconi. What was he when he did his radio ping, right? Why would he even try it in the first place if he believed that the Earth were a sphere? Because he needs a physical barrier to bounce it off, and he didn't know about the ionosphere in the first place. So he did it successfully, and he got a bounce off what? So they had to invent the ionosphere to explain it away. He had to have been a flat earther. He had to have been.
Well, the thing about it is, as I said earlier, he didn't claim it was bouncing off of anything other than Canada. Some receiver in Canada. That was the point. So he didn't actually claim that he was bouncing off anything in the sky, that I remember. He just said he got a signal to Canada. They made up this bounce to the sky. They came up with that.
Can I say something?
Sorry, Roger.
I just want to say something quick. I just jumped in, so I might be interrupting, but what was I going to say? I heard this, right? You know how they supposedly spray stuff up there? I heard it's like metals to help reflect like the phone signals and stuff like that. So is it possible it could be like metal particles or something like that they're bouncing off of?
Marconi had metal shavings in the air.
Well, they're using it to enhance or something like that, but it is possible that it could be something that
it has been proven. They do have these metals like borium and aluminum, stuff like that. There's patents and stuff like that they are spraying in the so-called atmosphere. You know, I forgot what they call it. That is in fact
the Xavier theory. It's the Xavier theory.
It's called sci-fi.
Adamantium in the atmosphere.
Unobtainium as well.
Indeed.
Right, but it's not.
With density, it's not going to stay there. It is
Sorry,
unsecular,
I
and with
apologize.
density, they won't stay there. With density, it's going to be more dense than the air. It's not going to stay up.
let's ask a quick question about Marconi. Does he fire at the horizon, or does he angle up and fire at the sky?
Don't know.
If I remember correctly, it was his signal came out at a 90-foot height above the ground. So he had a tether that went up 90 foot, and his signal came out from there. And as I said, he didn't claim that he was bouncing it off the sky. I think that was the thing. He, as far as I know, I can't say hand on heart, but he was just bouncing. He was just sending it in basically straight out towards the horizon.
Well, that's what I need to know. If he's sending it straight out to the horizon, hold on, just one sec. If it is sending it straight out to the horizon, then the only reason that you would have it asserted to be hitting the sky is because of your necessity for it to do that if the ground is falling away. So therefore, the sky, in this case, ionosphere, because we're going to beg the question, is a physical barrier for the light to bend on. When it reaches it in its straight path, hitting the barrier, ionosphere, and then bending down in line with the 8 inches per mile squared drop to get it to Canada, right? Well, that's only going to be needed to be an explanation, or can be an explanation, if he's pointing out at the horizon. Now, if on the other hand, he's gone, no, I am actually intentionally trying to bounce this off something in the sky, then he'd be pointing up at the sky as opposed to out at the horizon. But if Brian's correct and he's just sending a signal 90 feet above the ground perpendicular to it, then why would he be hitting the sky?
No.
He's just pointing out across the land.
I remember
I looked at it real quick. I looked it up real quick, and obviously this is from the History Channel. So take it with it however you will. But it says Italian physicist and radio pioneer Guglielmo Marconi succeeds in sending the first radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean, disproving detractors who told him the curvature of the Earth would limit transmission to 200 miles or less. And the citation. So he was actually trying to, he didn't send it straight. He was actually trying to bounce it.
So what you're saying is, it's a bit like, I do not want this ascribed to me. Gravity, just keep it the hell away from him. You know what we're going to do? We're going to name it after him. So Marconi saying there'll be no curvature in the Earth in the way, obscuring our view. A hill, marked with an X labelled horizon, physically obscuring your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, debunked by the Black Swan. That's not going to get in the way, says Marconi. So he does it, he succeeds. And what's he done? Has he proved the flat Earth? Nah! He's proved the ionosphere! Obviously!
Well, listen, let's not forget the elephant in the room. When he did the Wales one from Carnarvon in Wales over to Australia, let's not forget that on their model, that's pretty much antipodal, right? It's got to go like 180 degrees of a circle. The explanation for that is bouncy, 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 bouncy. Well, practically speaking, that doesn't work because what is it bouncing off? And why is it so reflective that the signal is not degraded by the time it gets there? It's far more easy to understand if it's just a straight line.
Well, that's not even the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, which is what I was trying to say a few minutes ago, is the 90-foot tether. Because the point of that was to get the signal over all waves and swells. That was the point of the 90-foot tether. Because we needed to be have it up high enough that nothing would get in the way of the signal. That was the point of it. If he was just bouncing it off the sky, he wouldn't need a 90-foot tether. He'd just shoot it straight up.
I see what you mean. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you could do it literally an inch off the ground. You just set your equipment up on the ground and just point it up at the sky. Now, obviously, if you're doing it 2 or 3 degrees up, as long as there's nothing obscuring your view 2 or 3 degrees up, you're still going to see and hit the sky if you're pointing at it. But you're saying, no, that's not what he's doing. It's perpendicular to the ground. The pole that he's sending up 90 foot is to stop anything that's below 90 foot getting in the way.
Yeah, it was a tether and a balloon, I think, with the signal sender attached to it or something like that. But it was 90 feet, if I remember correctly. And the whole point was that he's shooting it across the ocean and no waves or swells is going to get in its way. That was the point.
We need to talk about this more. It's
Well,
stone
my
cold flat
question
Earth
was-
proof, isn't it? We
Yeah.
need to talk about this more. Go on, John. Sorry.
My whole thing is, if it has to be a physical barrier to have gas pressure, right?
Yep.
Is there such physical barriers that don't reflect radio?
You're saying can non-physical things reflect? I'm going to go with no.
So it would seem that if you did have the right angle to whatever's containing us, you should be able to bounce the signal back down.
Maybe. I've no idea any of the constituent parts of the barrier that they're saying they're bouncing stuff off, named the ionosphere, but they're only saying they need to bounce it off because it would hit the barrier when going across a flat plane. If you assume the flat plane's curving away from you, then it's either going off into space in their model, or necessitates them describing it as hitting something and bouncing back down again to change the angle down around the sphere, right? But that's a...
Well,
Go on.
I don't want to let them have a seat at the table. They're kind of excluded from the conversation because, it's just not a sphere anymore. I'm talking about, like, when you see satellites, they're usually angled towards the sky at like a 15-degree angle from the flat plane we live on.
No, they're normally pointing at the
roundabout
horizon.
side.
No, I wouldn't say so. All the satellite dishes I've ever seen, they're always pointing at the horizon, as is the one out my window right now, and that one I did a video of.
Well, I live in the mountains, so all the ones that I've seen have been kind of angled up.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to research it.
I mean, fair enough. I remember somebody saying, or sending me a picture of someone on the equator with satellite dishes that were pointing straight up. And I looked at them and I laughed, and I'm like, I've been out installing satellite systems. Not me personally, but I've worked alongside other people who did the satellite stuff. That was a bit below my pay grade, not to be, put too fine a point on it. But I still had to work alongside them and see them shimmying up the sides of buildings and putting satellite dishes on. And even in Indonesia, they were sticking them on, pointing them at the horizon. They weren't pointing them in the air.
Yeah, but what if it's latitude based, depending on where you angle them?
I'm sure it is. I don't know enough about it, but I can only go by what I watched them do. And they weren't pointing them up in the sky on the equator, as was, some people have got these, I don't even know if I'd call them satellite dishes. They look like cages. But, fair enough, if that's what you're saying is a satellite receiver and that's how it has to be orientated, fine, you've got a picture of that. That certainly isn't how I saw it working when I was out there putting very high-end systems together.
Well, what I'm saying, though, is even with their dishes pointed straight up, that's still not proving it's a sphere. If anything, it would be proving that there's a physical barrier to bounce the signal off of.
Maybe. But I think in the case of Marconi, it's only, as I keep saying, it's only being asserted to have to bounce off something if you assume that the model's heliocentric and therefore, you're going to hit the roof rather than just concede that Earth's flat.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it more.
Because all of his people were telling him that it wasn't going to work because the signals weren't going to follow the curve of the Earth. So obviously, when it actually did work, they had to come up with, it bounced off the ionosphere. That checks out.
Well, if they're going to apply refraction, I was just going to say, if they're going to apply refraction, they could get rid of that whole ionosphere and just say that the radar is refracting around Earth.
Oh, that's what they did do, though, eh? I mean, I think this is the problem with the consensus view that the Earth's a sphere. When you come to something like this Marconi transmission, you're going to have the consensus try and explain why it works on a sphere, because that is their worldview. So we reach a point in time now where it's kind of do or die. It's like, do we carry on with this nonsense in light of knowing that it's not real and it's just model based and just a way of understanding the stars if you project them onto a sphere? Not that that's even necessary. But it seems like we've got to this point, not because of a great deception, but because of a comedy of errors. That's basically what it boils down to, right? No, it can't just be reaching it. How would it be reaching it around a sphere? Is the mentality of the person trying to explain this and coming up with the ionosphere? Because, well, it's obviously reached around the sphere that I'm assuming and don't realise it. Then you end up with ionospheres.
It's not just the one argument of it being a great deception either. It's also the duality at the same time of a great ignorance, because those that just point it and get the signal and go, yep, that's working, don't even think twice about it. But there must be people that must question it, because, like you said, I've only ever seen them pointing at the horizon. And my own understanding, and I might be wrong with this, and it's just my view, but Gilhooly, what's it called? The Gilhooly Satellite Observatory, or whatever they call it, in Cornwall. I believe that's where they get the signal from satellite television from the States. They ping it across the Atlantic into Gilhooly, and then they transmit from Gilhooly up the country. So when we're pointing it towards the horizon, we're actually getting the signal that's coming from Gilhooly, but we're not getting it from the horizon. So it looks like we're getting it from the horizon. But I don't know, it's a great ignorance as well as a great deception. It depends on how much you know.
I had to contact them.
What?
Do you remember me talking about contacting that observatory?
I actually just want to say, actually just want to say, I live over here in Dallas, and about 20 miles away, there's this place called Cedar Hill or something like that, and they have these great big, huge towers. Obviously, they have something on them, you know, maybe radio. Who's to say? You know, maybe we're all just pointing that way and we don't even know it. You know, we're just hitting those towers, and these towers are huge, and I would imagine big cities to have them. And we're talking like spires, you know, just metal cable towers.
Yeah, we've got the telecom tower here, or close to me in Birmingham. It's just an enormous, great big tower. It looks like a Space Needle.
Well, there was the point I wanted to get in a while back, but I didn't want to step on other people, is that Marconi, and this is led into it, Marconi has a nice strong sister argument, and that is the world record microwave signal distance, which is, it's definitely 146 miles. They might have got further since, but it was definitely 146 miles a couple of years ago, and there's all the details about it. Now, that's a microwave signal is basically a laser beam. It's not exactly the same, but they don't, it's not a bending signal. The whole point of it is it's a straight line. And the only thing that was stopping them from going further, I think, was power outage, just like the amount of power that they could pump into it or whatever. But it's 146 miles. And that's for a microwave signal, which is obviously, because it's so concentrated, it would be the shortest signal, the hardest one to get to go at a distance. But all the details are there. I think it was something about 200 and something foot height from one mountain to another, 146 miles. Somewhere, I think it could have been Nevada or somewhere like that. Somewhere pretty deserty.
Vaguely remember Linus Tech Tips covering it for transmission types, and then pointing out that if you wanted to set up a long-range transmission across the ground, the place you'd go to find out if you had line of sight or not is Google Earth. In case the penny hasn't dropped, meaning Google Earth is showing you just how flat it is.
Yeah, I bet he didn't point out the flat baseline though, right?
That was the point of the demonstration. So they're showing, look, at this small scale, this is how we get a line of sight to do these long-range transmissions. And then he pointed out that professionals doing it on a much larger scale still need their long-range transmissions to be received. So they go to Google Earth and look by drawing out an elevation profile to see what's in the way, right? No accounting for Earth curve, just how far is it, and can I see on the elevation profile if there's something blocking my view or not, i.e. an elevated bit of land.
And notice that they say it's a line of sight that's required, not a bendy line of sight or a great circle route line of sight.
Exactly.
I got it immediately, Nathan, but I couldn't get to the mute button.
What were you going to say?
I'm saying I got what you said about Google Earth immediately, but I couldn't get to the mute button.
Oh right, yeah. Well, we discovered that a long while back while they were manipulating the view that you get in the nice cartoons while we were talking about them. But that's a long while back, and about a year or two before that, I contacted Goon Hilly because an ex-housemate that I used to live with got in touch with me via Facebook and said, flat earther nonsense. I've seen the lunar rover with my own eyes from Goon Hilly. I went there as a kid, as a student for a school trip, and they showed us the moon lander through the telescope. And I was like, no, they didn't. And he insisted, so I just got in touch with them. I was like, I want to come and see it. I want to look at it for myself, please. And my question was something along the lines of, can I see it through the lens, or do I see it on a monitor? Or I think I might have covered that with the guy beforehand, which is to say that he didn't see it through the lens or anything as grand as that. He just saw it on a monitor. And I'm like, well, you can fake anything through a monitor. He was like, no, they were telling us that we were looking at it there and then through the telescope. I'm like, all right, okay. So get in touch, and I was like, I want to come and see this for myself then, if you can see it. And he's like, no, you can't. And then he gave me the maths for it. It was like, even if you had Hubble pointed at the moon, you couldn't see it. It's just too small. I'm like, yeah, it's not there. But the kids that went round for a little trip around the observatory were told, when looking at a television screen, that they were looking at the lunar rover on the moon via the telescope. That's what they were told. That's why he was so adamant with me. So when I went back to him, I'm like, no, he didn't. He was scratching his head going, oh, but that's what they told us. I'm like, yeah, right. That's what they told you. But it ain't true.
Yeah, they just like the kids.
Yeah, basically. Just lie to them.
Did he say that he could see one lunar rover or one of the three that were left up there, apparently?
He was under the impression, when they showed him, the grainy footage of the moon's claimed to be surface on an image on a TV screen, and there's a few smudged pixels, that has said to the kids, look, this is how the moon landing looks from our telescope. We're pointing at it right now. And they've gone, wow.
That's a neat magic trick, though. You get them look through a telescope at the moon, and then you show them a video claiming that there's something. That is a nice magic trick.
Yeah, totally worked.
So, get this though. When I was a kid, my dad took me to it was an old real working mine that it was now disused and was now a tourist attraction. So basically, you get in the lift shaft, get in your lift, big massive wheel thing, pulley mechanism drops you down, and you get in this lift, and basically, the equivalence principles where you can't tell whether you're moving up and whether you're moving down or whether the Earth's moving up, right? I had the feeling that when I was looking at the little window that was on the elevator, and I was watching what looked like the rock of the wall, the pit shaft. When I was watching that, I got the really weird feeling that that could just be one of those cards that's two rollers with a piece of paper passing across the window, making it look like you're moving down. Because I got the feeling that we weren't moving down at all. I got the feeling it was a setup. And when we get down there, to be honest, there was a change in circumstance. It did feel a little bit warmer. It did feel a little bit musky. So it was persuasive. But I got the feeling that we weren't moving at all. And that it was just a piece of paper on a roller giving you the impression that you were moving. It was the most surreal experience. I'd love to go back as an adult and do it again and see whether or not it really was moving, because I didn't believe it when I was a kid.
Sit at a train at the station, because that actually happens. You sit on a train and there's a train parked next to you, and you're looking at it, and then you're like, oh, we're going. Finally, we're setting off, getting some speed up, jolly good. And then the train next to you disappears, and you realise you stood still.
Yes, that's a bugged out feeling.
Parallax kind of thing.
No, it's even worse where that happens. When that happens with a car that's next to you, it's even worse than the train.
You slam the brakes on that are already on. So I've done that too. You're in park, you're at the lights, you just you doze off for a minute, you look next to you, and you go, oh my God, I'm moving! And you slam on the brakes, and oh no, I'm not, they're moving.
Yeah, that happens to me on a regular.
Just before the point is lost.
You feel yourself moving.
You do. You think you feel yourself moving. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Just before the point is lost, as I couldn't get it in, I tried to get it in, and Chocolate bet me to it a few minutes ago. Remember that magic trick that John spoke about, with them telling the kids that they, your friend, the housemate, that they could see the lunar rover, and that they showing them pictures then of the moon landings, nonsense, whatever, right? And John saying it's a neat trick. No, the neat part of that was when they brought in the flat Earth, because they said, no, you can't see it when they were pressed on it. You can't see it because of angular size, something that does not exist on our model.
Correct.
There is no perspective on their model. It doesn't exist. It's not part of their maths. So when they used angular size, they debunked their own model. But they were able to do it in such a way where that's the explanation for why you can't see for their explanation for why you can't see the lunar rover. Because, well, obviously it's not there, but that's their explanation.
It's a great trick all the way around, man. Well, you got to knock it.
But there's no malice on the part of the guys at Goonhilly, right? So you can just imagine, well, obviously we've got to make money, we've got to have the tours, the buses and the schools, they're paying the rent or paying the bills or whatever. But we've got to keep them entertained. And what are they coming for? Well, they're coming to see space, aren't they? What are we going to give them? Well, we could just show them what the moon looks like. Yeah, but they can do that on their iPads and blow it up, right? So what are we going to give them? Well, show them images of the lunar lander. Yeah, but we can't get those images from the telescope. Oh, well, they don't know that. You just got to create a bit of magic for them. You want it to be memorable rather. So just little tiny little white lies, not going to hurt anybody. It just means that they'll all go wow when they see it, and they'll remember being here, and it'll, that's what you want. You've got to give them a good experience. In other words, the best of intentions. When I said earlier it's a comedy of errors as opposed to some occult deceit, yeah, the Freemasons might know the reality of how they're building, but does that mean that they're part of some grand deceit because they've kept the truth? Not really. Just means that people have gone, oh, right, yeah, but we're living on a ball, aren't we? Well, how does that work with the ball? And then they've moved forward from there.
Right, just like Thunderfoot pouring the bouncy balls into a fish tank so you can imagine them as gas molecules, not expanding in all directions.
Yeah, they
right?
Try and square the circle. No Freemasonic reference in that. That's just a phrase I use. As in, I'm not referring to Freemasons when I say they're trying to square the circle. Although that's probably.
I know you're Illuminati, Nathan. You don't need to deny it.
I was about to say that's probably where the origin of the what is it, Turner phrase comes from.
Well, I mean, if you look at who the Freemasons were, they were tradespeople that would have eventually obviously included surveyors, engineers, people like Burrell, I'm sure, was a Freemason of some kind, and he was a brilliant person. So, I mean, besides all the dark stuff that goes with Freemasonry in today's world, the Freemasons were a group of basically engineers, surveyors, builders, stuff like that. And architects, exactly, architects. And if you have
designers, right?
They were the
designers.
Yeah, and the square and compass. Sorry?
Nothing. I was just throwing in more stuff because Arwen was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's what I really want to get to, just to be a bit more concise, is the square and compass. Says it all. You know what I mean? The square and compass. That's on their logo, square and compass. That is the thing. That is how you measure, square and compass.
You can do F all with an angle.
Especially not establish your latitude. You can't do that with an angle.
Or make an angular size measurement. Can't do that either.
Right, establish perpendicular.
You can't establish the.
Go on, John.
I was going to say you can't establish the GP of where you're at with an angle either.
I meant to ask this actually. As we've been talking about Bev on the Live, or talked about Bev on the Live show, I've kind of put something out there and haven't actually ran it by anybody. I've just asserted it as though it's factually accurate, which is to say my assessment of Bev's motivation, which is all it is. It's my opinion, right? But based on what I've been presented with, I've presented it back to the audience as lost souls not wanting to be flat earthers anymore and finding some solace from a guy who tells them they don't have to declare that anymore. You just have to swallow the contradiction that flat isn't flat, or level isn't flat, or the earth isn't flat, even though you've got a fundy who says it's a curving ground is actually level ground, which is flat. But, you know, that's what my assessment has led me to declare to my audience. And I just wanted to, I'm not second guessing myself. I just wanted to see if you agreed.
How are you divining his intention in that? I don't see it.
It's not intention. I'm just saying that's what's occurring. So what we have is lost souls who do not want to be flat earthers anymore. What we have is a man appealing to their not wanting to be flat earthers anymore. And their declaration proves that. They don't want to say that. They want to say the opposite, which is that it isn't flat. So those are just the facts of the matter.
Right. So it's not opinion based. It's not really what we think. That's
Saturday night.
Oh, bloody hell. No, it's not opinion based in that regard, but it is opinion based when I string it all together and draw a conclusion that the motivation, or maybe if I took out motivation, the appeal of Bev to his audience, who are lost souls looking to relinquish the pain of being a flat earther. Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it, then there's less opinion in there.
Can I ask an obvious question? What is the problem with saying that, one, no one denies that mountains and valleys exist, and two, it doesn't negate that the overall lack of curvature means that it is flat? What's wrong with saying that? I don't get why you take
nothing. There's no problem with it.
It's not about the geometry. It's about the allergy for the word. It's about cocking out, trying to avoid being called a flat earther.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. That's what Bev is all about.
Can I point something out? If you're not claiming the earth is flat, then you are claiming a shape. Because flat is not a shape. You're not making any geometric claim of a shape. So if you're saying, I'm not a flat earther, then technically you're claiming that some shape to the earth.
No, you're not. You can't say that he's making a claim with a negative statement. That's not fair. Because my view on it is, for me personally, the earth is like without form. It's formless, as per the Bible. And I'm not even a religious dude, but
that was before creation.
No, hold on. Hold on, because I disagree. I disagree with Anthony in regards to what he's just taken apart Brian with. Because no, it isn't. Brian is correct, right? As soon as you say it isn't flat, right, and you're referencing it back to a geometric claim, that's a claim of the whole. Therefore, you cannot not be asserting a shape, Anthony.
That's not true, because if we change it to murder, I didn't murder him. That doesn't mean that somebody else did. It just means that you didn't.
But if we keep it on geometry, and you say an aspect of the geometry is that it's flat, that aspect ascribes no shape. But as soon as you say it isn't flat, then you can't not be ascribing some shape to it.
Is this whole topic, is it not just majoring on a minor?
If we make it about murder, then no.
No, but in the context of what Bev's arguing over, I don't see how it's not majoring on a minor point, because like no one denies mountains, no one denies valleys.
They do. Okay, this is the whole point. I've just said this is maybe you haven't watched Bev in a while. This is their whole shtick, literally, Anthony. So you're like, is it not reasonable to say that if you just, notwithstanding mountains and valleys, it's flat? Yeah, to them that is very unreasonable for some reason. So yeah,
it's all nitpicky and just nonsensical semantical arguments, having objections for misleading reasons that are obviously not at the root of the reason for the objection. They just want to avoid the word flat. That is all. That is all he ever wanted.
Is it not therefore a deliberate attempt at obfuscation to make it deliberate sound confusing?
Yeah, it is. Total obfuscation.
Yeah, and I don't know what it said.
Brian was right.
I don't understand why he's distinguishing from like the mountains and valleys point. Like, why distinguish from that as if it's like like a debunk, or because mountains and valleys exist, therefore it's
Owen's
not
trying to
flat.
tell you desperately,
Okay.
but you're not picking up what Owen's putting down, so that they can deny that it's flat. So they don't have to be a flat earther. That's kind of where I opened this conversation up with me saying, well, that up until John corrected me, that seemed like it was my opinion. It isn't.
I don't see what difference it makes. If you say that the mountains and valleys exist, therefore it's not flat, which I think that's what his position is. I would agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
So
No, that's incorrect. It's incorrect.
As a topology, but if you're only referencing the topology or the waves, then strictly speaking, in the same way as the 2D flat whiteboard isn't 100% flat. I'm just expanding on what Anthony said so that you don't disagree with him, Brian.
Oh yeah, I was just pointing out that. See, this is the thing, Anthony. What I did with Bev is I made a couple of videos focusing on the word flat and what it is. You can draw a triangle on a piece of A4 paper, and you can describe that as flat. You can describe the paper as flat and the table you drew it on as flat. But that paper and that table has undulations on it. But you can't describe. There's no other way to describe it, right? So technically, it's not 100% smooth or 100% two-dimensional. It's not two-dimensional. But it gives you, hang on, let me finish. It has the appearance of two-dimension because flat is just an aspect. If you're talking about in geometry, you can say a shape has the aspect of flat. So flat is either an aspect or a description. It is not a claim of a shape. It is not a claim of a form. So holding someone to a geometric claim, which is what Bev has been doing, he's holding people to geometry when flat is not technically part of geometry. If it's not a measurement, it's not an angle, and it's not a measurement, it's not an angle, it's not a shape.
Exactly.
So,
it's a straw man.
Brian, just Brian, nobody else. Would you agree with me then if I said that the undulations at the microscopic level are so minor that the deviation from flat, level, straight, whatever you want to call it, is negligible? What else is there that we know that is negligible by definition, but they make a massive deal out of it as though it's the most important thing ever? Because we're arguing over the undulations in paper, right? They're negligible. Well, refraction's negligible, but they make it into the most... Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're right, because this was my point. I said within one of my videos to Bev, or directed in their direction, right, that if you could see the whole of the Earth at one time from a high altitude, are you going to notice Mount Everest? No. It's going to be too small to notice. It'll be no different than a sheet of paper, if you know what I mean. So they're just looking for something to jump on. And when I said that if they're claiming it's not flat, then technically they are making a geometric claim. That is not incorrect.
That's correct.
I don't think I agree with that last sentence about.
You don't have to agree with it.
I covered it. Brian's reiterated it. Huey's agreeing with it.
It's not a positive version.
It's a disjunctive syllogism. Hello,
Okay.
can anyone hear me?
Exactly.
Explain
That's
the
what I said.
disjunctive
It's a
syllogism,
disjunctive
please.
syllogism.
Explain that for us, John, please.
It's a disjunctive syllogism because there's only two choices in Brian's statement. If it's flat, flat's an aspect. If he's claiming geometry, then there must be a shape. Period.
Isn't
Can
that
you
just
define
a
a
false
disjunctive
dichotomy?
syllogism, please?
Isn't that just a false dichotomy?
Now, it's not a false dichotomy because if he's claiming some type of geometry, then there must be a shape.
Right. Give the third option or show how one of the options is wrong if you want to claim it's a false dichotomy.
Or just define disjunctive syllogism, please, somebody?
Yeah, if there's two possibilities and you roll one out, then the other one must be true.
It's a form of logic.
It's the same form of logic that is taking place in the scientific method. If A, then B isn't mutually inclusive with A, or with if A, not B. If one is disproven, the other one is proven. But in the same way as if it's not an aspect that's flat, then you are automatically claiming a shape of some description.
Yeah, because if you're saying it's not flat, that's a claim.
I don't agree. That's a claim. That's a negative statement. It's not a positive one.
No, it's a geometric claim.
it's a
not a claim, though.
consequence of denying one thing that you only leave the other in place. It's the same with the ontological primitives.
Yeah, but if me and Brian are accused of murder and I say I didn't murder him, that doesn't mean I'm saying Brian did. It just means I didn't.
But that's a false equivalency.
That's a false equivalence with a false dichotomy built in for Arwin's benefit.
Yep.
How is it a false equivalence?
Told you.
No,
Because
not told
you
you.
say-
Ah,
say to me-
no, Arwin, don't take victory out of that. Just step off a second, Arwin.
Don't worry. I'll stay out of it.
Well, Anthony, if you say to me it's not flat, that means you must know, you must have some evidence of what it is.
Yeah, but Brian, respectfully, if I said I didn't kill Arwin, I'm not implying. I'm not saying that you did.
Forget that. Let's stick.
Stop bringing up murder, okay?
Stop bringing up.
Especially don't use me as an example.
Yeah, stick to what we're talking about, right? This is there's no point talking about some other thing. Stick to this. If you say it's not flat, right, that means you're claiming a shape.
No, it
because
doesn't.
flat is not a shape.
It's a negative statement.
Well, what is it if it's not flat then?
Yeah, you're implying the alternative is the only thing that can be the case. But if I say,
I'm not implying it,
because there's no
you
burden
imply it when you say that.
There's no burden to prove the negative statement, right? But there's a burden to prove the positive statement. But if I say I didn't kill him, I don't have to prove who did. I just have to prove who did.
Objection.
Yeah,
but he's
let John go, because I was just presumably about to make the same objection John is. Go ahead, John.
Right. If you've proven it's murder and you've proven you haven't murdered someone, you have proven ipso facto that someone else did murder him.
No, you haven't. You've not proven that at all. That would be called. That's the reason why you haven't acquitted.
What?
Yeah, but why are we thinking about?
Are you listening to what you're saying?
No,
just chill out.
You haven't proven that somebody else did. You've failed to prove that somebody else did. You've only proven that you didn't.
No. Let me just try once more with Anthony. You're saying because this is two statements ago, you're not responsible for any burden proving if you just deny that something, in this example, let's keep it on track, something isn't flat. Well, ipso facto, you are inadvertently making a positive claim when you deny something that's an aspect without shape, that is. If you say if you say it is not without shape, the negative is it must have shape then. To deny that it is without shape means it has shape, Anthony.
No, I don't agree. It's not a positive statement.
Can't break it down anymore, I give in. That's it,
It's
I'm
a
done.
direct inference. Direct
inference, but not. It's not. So a direct
Yeah,
inference
there it is.
doesn't bring a burden.
So you concede, Anthony. You are making the inference.
Yeah, but not an express
That's
statement.
a positive claim then.
No, it's not.
It
Inference
is.
isn't a positive claim.
It is. You don't have to like it.
It isn't.
Define
isn't.
inference.
Not expressed.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
Yes.
No, it's not. Look
correct.
up inference and then define it for us. You do it. Google inference.
Honestly, I'm not even going to argue that if you guys want to think that a negative statement brings with it a burden of proof, then you think that. But you're all fucking
I don't
deluded.
think it. I
You're
already said
avoiding the question.
Disjunctive syllogism.
Disjunctive syllogism.
Do you want to hear the
It's still not a
definitions?
positive statement.
Stop. We were asked for a definition. I just don't want to slide under the radar. Inference or inference. A conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning.
Yeah, but there's no evidence, is there, when you're saying that it's not flat?
But it's still a positive claim.
Yeah, making a claim.
No, it's not a claim. It's not a claim.
Oh, just give in,
If
Anthony.
Anthony, if I say to you it is flat, what shape am I claiming it is?
Not a ball.
No. If I say to you it is flat, what shape am I claiming it is?
He's not. He's claiming it's without shape.
See, I think the phrase that most people are missing is that when we use the word flat, we're using it descriptively, and if we were to use it as a
you moved away from my question.
Which curvature would be measured or observed from.
I've managed to dumb it down one
You
step
moved away
further for
from the
Anthony. Let me just try and dumb it down one step further. If we're talking about a farm and the cow, it's a dairy farm, it's normally got cows on it, yeah? And you make the assertion that the dairy farm is without cows, yeah? I.e., there's no cows there, yeah? That's making a positive statement about something not being there on the dairy farm. Do you understand?
No, you're not making a
They
positive.
could be camels, though.
Let me have a
That's
go.
helpful.
Anthony.
He's
I
getting
say-
hung up with positive and negative. It's a category error. It's a disjunctive syllogism.
Yeah, but there's no burden of proof required with a disjunctive syllogism.
let
It's
me
not
show
a
you,
positive
Anthony.
thing.
Hold on,
Let me show you.
can I please try to clarify this?
Yeah,
quickly?
you
No,
please
if any,
try.
no,
Maybe
if anything,
camels
no,
can
no,
try.
no. If anything,
Please.
we should qualify what a disjunctive cagilism is one more time.
Disjunctive syllogism. Anthony, if I claim the earth is flat, then what shape am I claiming it is?
If you claim the Earth is flat, the shape that you're claiming, well, it's flat isn't a shape, is it?
Exactly.
It's a datum.
Okay, stop.
Exactly.
Okay, stop. Step
Well,
one
it's a
achieved.
description.
Carry on, Brian.
Yeah. So if you say it's not flat, then you are ipso facto by proxy claiming a shape.
No, you're just saying it's not flat.
Yeah, but that would require evidence,
Not.
which would be a shape.
No,
A
not.
claim of a shape.
Not
What you're doing
without.
is you're saying a double negative
Anthony,
is a positive.
Anthony, you're saying it's not without shape. So if something's
Yeah, it's a double
not
negative.
without shape, it's with shape, isn't it?
It's not the positive claim, though, is it?
It becomes it by inference, in your words.
I don't agree. You guys
said
can
it.
think that if you want. That's not
You were the
a
one who
positive
said it.
claim.
You said, well, I'm just inferring it.
Not a positive claim. You can say it is if you want to, but it isn't.
Let's give up. Let's end.
It's
Yeah,
a
but
bit of a
then-
false dichotomy. Come on. I mean, it's not the
Not a
same
false
as like, oh,
dichotomy
look,
either.
this animal is dead. What's the natural inferred conclusion you could draw from it?
Do you remember that
That it
scene?
was alive.
Do you remember that scene in The
Like,
Big
that's
Lebowski
inescapable.
where he's trying to talk? He's talking to the Steve Buscemi character, and he's like, "You're in over your element. You need to get a grip on the situation with the kidnap." The John Goodman character's trying to retain control over a conversation that's disjointed. That's what's going on right now. Arwen's the Steve Buscemi character.
Sorry, I'm just really into these types of arguments. But yeah.
I think, Anthony, you think that maybe we're being a bit pedantic, maybe. But we're dealing with a pedantic situation, Anthony, where somebody decided to be pedantic. So we're just being pedantic back and showing how their level of pedantic is.
I'm just applying the burden of proof.
unfounded.
Brian. The burden of proof lays with the guy that makes the positive claim. It doesn't lay with the guy that makes the disjunctive syllogism.
It does if it does if you infer it.
make. I didn't know a positive or a negative statement that negates it being a claim. Right?
I come along.
If a Glober claimed that there is no container, isn't that a claim of there not being a container?
No,
Just
it's a
because-
negative statement.
Yeah, so
a negative statement.
Finally got there. So when I say, no, you're wrong, Anthony, the dairy farm is not without cows. Yeah, like not without shape. Well, then we're with cows, with shape. Positive claim.
So, no, it's not a positive claim because the positive claim would be it's with cows. But if you're saying it's not without cows, then that's a double negative, isn't it?
Not without cows.
At the very least.
Not,
at the very least, it's malformed.
Not without cows is the same as not without shape. Flat is without shape. And if you say it's not flat, you're saying it's not without shape. Well, not without shape, double negative, is with shape. Positive claim.
So when I used an equivalence and I used murder as the equivalence, you guys said that wasn't acceptable. But why is it acceptable to use cows on a farm when the murder example is not acceptable? Because by the same standards, you can't use the cows one either.
John did. He turned your
pointless.
murder example into the perfect analogy. You just brushed past it.
This is Dude, why are you doing this? This is like category error. It's more straightforward with living cows or with something being dead.
No, just because you get it,
Hold on. When somebody says it's not flat, that's not a claim of shape.
Yeah,
that's a misassumption that you will typically believe that you will accept it as because it's been done so much. But it's not a claim of shape. That's the problem.
To prove that, to prove that, right? To say it's not flat is not claiming a shape. Please give me another aspect that does not result in shape.
No, because that's moving away from the point. Originally, when I said it, are we not majoring on the minor?
It isn't,
exactly
Anthony.
what we're doing right now. We're majoring on a minor, and we're arguing over the burden of proof and whether there's a positive or not.
I'd agree with you. If there was an overarching point being made, I'd agree with you. But this is the pedantic point we're discussing. Just because you're wrong, Anthony.
No, I'm not. Okay,
You're not majoring
all right.
on any minor. You're just wrong.
Okay, if you guys say so.
Well, can I try to understand your position, right? You're saying
to say not flat is not claiming a shape.
That's
because
Anthony's
flat is
position.
an aspect. It's not a shape.
Right.
Yeah, but to say it's
Can
not
somebody
flat
tell
is a
me?
claim of a shape.
Somebody tell me the burden of
For your
proof.
claim
Is it A, the burden of proof lays with the guy with the positive assertion, or is it B, it lies with the guy
You
with the
make a positive assertion when you say it's not flat. That's a positive assertion. You say something is not something is a
not
positive
at all.
assertion. It is. If I say a chair, if I say that chair is not a table, that's a positive assertion.
Yeah, and I didn't kill Arwin. So does
No.
that mean that Nathan did? No, it doesn't.
No. Anthony, you know when you prove a null, do you understand that even though it's a negative statement, A didn't cause B, that you've
you
proven
don't prove the null.
Yeah, but
no, you don't prove the null.
You don't test.
You have to accept.
Anthony,
you have to accept.
That's wrong. No,
you
that's
don't
wrong.
test the null.
Just let me tell you how you're wrong. You don't test the null, but you absolutely can prove the null. And you do if you show that A does not prove B, because the null statement is if A, not B. And if you vary A and B doesn't happen, then you've proven that statement.
No, this is where Jaron gets his argument that you don't prove things in science from, because he says that you fail to prove the cause.
He doesn't have an argument.
No, that's incorrect. One or other statement is proven, but one's a negative statement. Your argument here is to say, if I make a statement in the contrapositive, I say Earth is not flat. That isn't a positive claim. That's your position. Well, both statements in a hypothesis, if A, then B, that's a positive statement. If A, not B, is also a positive statement. It's the statement that A will not cause B. But that's still a positive claim.
Right. So again, this is where Jaron uses the argument, well, in the future, because you don't know all of the variables, there are possible variables that do exist, but you are not yet aware of them, that in the future, you might become aware of them, and it may be the case that you find another cause that wasn't that one. I don't want to do this, but you're making me defend Jaron.
That's incorrect.
So in the future, A will not cause B.
All right. Guys, this is a waste.
Hold on, I've got 5 people
time.
talking. Everybody stop. Right, I had John, Alwyn, and Brian who all wanted to respond to Anthony. Before any of them were heard, Anthony was talking again. So which one of you wants to address Anthony most?
I would like to address.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. You're testing for one thing, this cause to this effect. That's the point of what you're doing. You won't find something else later on that's going to debunk that. You won't find heat doesn't cause water to boil. You won't find that. That won't happen. It has been proven that heat is required to cause water to boil. There is no way around that. So what Jaron is coming up with is a load of rubbish from pseudoscience because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand scientific method. He doesn't understand science. He thinks science is a load of liars. So he doesn't know. He's decided to be ignorant. He doesn't understand scientific method or the whole point of natural science. And that's the problem. He doesn't have an argument. So when you're bringing him in, that means that you don't understand the argument either. And I hate to say this to you, but you don't if you're bringing him in and think that he has a point, because he doesn't.
I don't agree with Jaron, but I can see that I'm wasting my time. I'm going to bid you farewell, guys. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks, Anthony.
Oh, man, don't be like that. I was going to say...
He's not being nice. He's just bowing out. That's fair enough.
Right. Well, if A causes B, when is A never going to cause... I don't get that. A doesn't cause B anymore.
It's just like the scientific method, right? I mean, you either prove the null or the not getting it wrong. You have the dichotomy there. You always end up proving something. You prove it right or you prove it wrong, and thereby you have that result. So yeah, saying it's not this is a claim by that standard, at least.
Correct.
I did like how Anthony introduced the idea of the dichotomy being either I committed murder or you committed murder, and ignoring that the actual claim would be either I did the murder or someone else did. That's the null, is someone else did, right? That would be the if A not B statement. So therefore you did not commit the murder.
Murder said happened though.
I wasn't aware
they
that a
have a
negative
result.
statement can't be a positive claim. I don't. Just because a statement is negative doesn't mean it can't be a positive claim. I'm a glober and I claim there is no container. That's a positive claim of there not being a container.
Negative. No. Negative claims are claims of non-existence.
But that can't be even if it's a negative statement, it can't be a positive claim.
Yeah, it's not. No. That's a claim of non-existence. So it's negative.
Yeah, but it's still a claim.
Yeah, a claim that A doesn't
it's still
cause
a
B
claim.
is a claim of a non-existent effect being induced. So A didn't cause B.
Right.
Nothing
But
happened,
that's
though.
still a claim, and if I made that claim, it would still be the burden would still be on me to prove it. Right?
Yeah. And that's why often you'll hear me going, well, I can't disprove that either. You know, when someone says that the sun's a nuclear reactor, you go, okay, have they proven that to be the case? Well, if they flipped the burden and went, well, have you disproved it? Well, my answer would be, I'm not claiming it to need to disprove it. You need to prove it as true.
So if I walk into a courtroom and I say bananas don't exist, right? How am I going to prove that? Bring everything into the courtroom that's not a banana? No. No.
You know what?
Follow?
It's right. Do bananas really exist then?
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Could I just throw something in there? That this is a very specific situation when we bring in the word flat and the opposition we're dealing with being the Tridican solver. So when, like, this is specific, I think that's maybe the point that Anthony wasn't really accepting. This is specific as well. Because to say it's not flat, it means you are claiming some shape to it. Because flat is shapeless. So it's specific.
I agree with Brian.
Well, that's the thing.
Now you're going wrong.
How many aspects are there, Arwen?
I don't know. Is that relevant? The thing is, it is a
Extremely.
geometric aspect and not a shape. So if you say it's not flat, well, what other geometric aspect are you trying to make it compete with then, right? Instead of inferring a shape, which it doesn't.
But it does. It infers that you're claiming
it doesn't.
it has shape. It does, Darwin. It's
No,
inferring that you're
just
claiming
because you
it.
say it's not flat does not infer a shape.
It does.
No, because
flat
you're just denying a geometric aspect that does not automatically infer a shape.
Okay, can you let Brian
Well, let me
respond
get
how it
this
does?
out.
Hold on, John. Just Brian's edging. I didn't hear any of what Brian said in response because Owen rumpused him. Just try once more, Brian. I didn't quite catch what you said.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Nathan. Yeah. Flat is a description, Arwen. A description that is a claim of no shape. So when you say it's not flat, that means that you are contrapositively claiming that it has shape.
No. No, you literally added that.
How would
I
you
do not
prove
agree
it's
with
not
that.
flat?
No,
How
just
would you
because something
prove
is
it's
not flat does not automatically make
hang
a
on.
shape. You literally added that at the beginning of your statement.
No. How? That's
you
what flat is. No, that's what the description of flat is. Flat is not a shape.
Citation,
not a measurement.
please.
It's not an angle.
Citation, please.
What? The flat is not a shape.
Correct.
Okay, if I have to get a citation, the flat is not a shape. Okay, I get it.
Bananas not being real.
by
Hold
saying
on.
that it
Hold on. We've got
automatically
two
infers a
citations
shape,
needed.
and-
Two citations required. QE. I want that banana citation.
Well, as far as I'm aware, there's only two aspects to really consider. It's flat or curved. Now, if there's another one, I'd like to hear it.
It's like saying, look, this isn't smooth. That automatically means it is whatever, a cube or something, or it has edges, or, like what? No, it just means it's not smooth. It's an aspect. It does not automatically negate or create a shape. That has nothing to do with that. Not directly.
Yeah, but if the other person is
Subcategory.
claiming geometry, is the other person claiming geometry of the Earth? Yes. But he says it's not flat. Therefore, it must have a shape. Now, we don't know what shape he's thinking of, or he probably doesn't know, but it definitely means he must consider it as having shape, period.
Right. No, the only two aspects of shape.
It's not agree or disagree. It's a disjunctive syllogism.
I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying I don't see it. I don't see the point.
Agree.
I love that. I love that. QE says it's not a agree or disagree situation, and then explains why. Response from Arwin: I'm not saying I agree or disagree.
That's right. I'm just not seeing his point and don't get it. I don't. Yeah.
Well, he just said he disagreed a second before that. That's what I was laughing at.
Yeah, and then you finalized your statement, and then I said, yeah, I just don't get it then.
Okay.
I don't understand.
What do you disagree with?
Didn't you hear what Brian?
What are you disagreeing with?
I don't understand. Okay, that's what I said. I don't understand. I don't understand his point.
Okay. To assert that something is not flat is to assert that it is not without shape. To be not without shape, you must have shape. Now, QE saying, at that point, you don't know what shape they must be asserting when they say it isn't flat. All right, what shape is it then? Would be the response, because to say something isn't without shape, isn't flat, is to say it has shape. That's it.
I don't get it. It's like, because it's flat, there is no shape. Why would it not have shape just because it's flat? I don't get it.
So, because what shape is flat? To say it is shape?
It's not a shape. It's a geometric aspect. A
Aspects
cube
aren't shapes.
has a flat surface.
Surface.
Don't you know that a cube has a flat surface?
Yeah, one of the aspects. Yeah, one of the aspects of the three-dimensional
citation.
One of the aspects of that three-dimensional shape is flat.
Correct.
But flat isn't a shape. It's an aspect you're using to describe a shape.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
But it's only descriptory.
So that aspect used to describe shapes with, if something is not that aspect, then it's not without shape. Ergo must therefore have shape. I'm sick of saying it.
Yeah, but this is where I totally disagree, because flat is not automatically without shape.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
no, it isn't.
It's a description.
Has a
You
flat
just admitted
surface.
it's a description.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
It was admitted.
Okay,
The
so
cube has a
what
flat
shape
surface. Over.
is flat?
Cube is not.
When you're
cube is
flip-flopping now.
I'm not
First you said it wasn't. Yeah, first you said it was a description. Now you're saying it's shape, and you.
No, I didn't. I said it has a flat surface. A shape that has a flat surface. So if it's a flat surface, that doesn't automatically exclude it from being a shape.
No, you're missing the point, Alan. It has to be the shape is described as flat. It's not flat is a shape. A triangle can be described as flat. A square can be described as flat. A circle can be described as flat, etc. But
that's not what I said.
But they're being described as flat. Flat itself is a description. It is not a geometric shape. Unless you can draw flat, not a triangle, not a circle, not a square. Draw flat. What? Draw flat. The shape flat. Can you draw that for me and post it?
What?
No, you can't draw
drawing
flat.
does not provide such things.
no,
they can only
Arwin,
make.
No, it would if it had shape. Arwin, it would if it had a shape. Ergo, your description of it, well, it doesn't infer it doesn't have shape if you say flat. Okay, Well, if it could infer that it does have shape when described as flat, show us by drawing flat.
Okay, well, I'll draw the top side of a square.
No, that's
Top side.
Where is the shape?
Top side of a shape.
Yeah, of a shape.
Yeah,
that's a shape.
that's right.
No, the square.
And
no,
that
you're
was
drawing
my
a square,
point.
you're not
Okay,
drawing-
okay, fine. Now, let me try one more. Let me try one more. Without the shape, just draw the flat bit.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just draw the top side of that square then.
Oh,
No,
the
Alex.
shape again.
No.
The
Back
shape.
to- yeah, you're just
That-
you just
that's
Just
the
because
the
it's flat,
description of the
look,
shape
it
you're
could
going to
be
draw.
a disc, it could be a flat disc,
No,
it could
when you're
be a
missing the
flat
point. I
square,
didn't say you
it
have
could
to
be
think
all
you're
kinds of
controlling.
things that
can
are
you draw-
geometric. We just
Owen,
are not sure, and it's not
can you
important to our
draw-
argument versus the globe because all we have to do is prove it's not a sphere.
Oh,
Yeah,
swallow
exactly
your
the point.
pride and backtrack, Owen. For God's sake, this is ridiculous.
Owen, can
Yeah.
you draw a square?
What?
Can you draw a square?
Yeah,
Can you draw a circle?
yeah,
Can you draw a rectangle?
yeah, sure.
Can you draw a flat?
I could a flat. Well, that's like it's something is not a flat is not a thing, but I could draw something that is flat. Yeah,
So if it's not a
you
thing,
can
how
just-
can it be a shape?
right. It's just
Thanks.
a flat is not. That's not a proper word. I could draw something that is flat. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the point.
So you could draw a shape that's described as flat, but you can't draw just flat. So that would make flat not a shape that you can draw. Right?
The word correct, but something can be flat and still have a shape.
Hang on. So if I said to you that the Earth is not flat, then that means I am claiming a shape. I'm claiming that it has a shape, because flat describes something without shape. A shape can be described as flat, but flat itself is describing
Sure,
no
sure.
shape.
I'll give you that. Yes. I mean, as soon as you say it's not flat, then yeah, the chance of an actual geometry being the case would become inevitable.
Oh, thank God. Praise be to Jesus. So with that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!